Hey, good morning, friends. Great to see you this morning. Happy Monday. I hope you had a great weekend, and I've recovered already from last night's big game. It is Monday, February 3rd. Good to see you this morning. Yeah, well, that wasn't a Super Bowl. That was a super blowout. Whatever happened, it looked like it was just like one team didn't show up for the game, and the Seahawks walked away with a commanding 43-8 win over the Denver Broncos. Big embarrassment for Denver. But of course, the biggest news of the game Turns out it wasn't much of a game when the big news of the game really is the fact that an opera star sang the Star Spangled Banner, Renee Fleming, for the very first time, and that Christie was booed in pre-game ceremonies. Of course, that booing at the game was not the worst of the news for Christie over the weekend. He might have thought that he had put Bridgegate behind him. No. He got some bad news on Friday when his man at the Port Authority, David Wildstein, turned around and said that Christie was lying when he told reporters at his news conference that he didn't know anything about the lane closures until after they were over. Wildstein says that Christie knew about them while they were taking place, but did nothing about them. And, of course, you want to know that the groundhog, Puxatawny Phil, came out of his burrow yesterday morning and saw his shadow, and that means, according to the legend at least, 6 more weeks of snow and sub-zero temperatures. Blame it on the groundhog. We'll take your comments at 866-55-PRESS by phone, on Twitter at BP Show, and on Facebook at facebook.com/Bill Press Show this Monday morning.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Don't look at me. Your hair's a bit frizzy today. Oh, you should pick that up. Oh, you're such a dork, loser. Here, let me help you with that. Oops.
Every day, kids witness bullying.
Oh, look. Your crush is looking at you. Poor you.
They want to help, but don't know how.
See, no one here's gonna help you, because no one
Teach your
likes
kids how to be more than a bystander. Visit stopbullying.gov.
If you drive buzzed, it could cost you around $10,000. You'll face major legal fees, major fines, and steep insurance penalties. You could lose everything. Nothing kills a buzz like getting pulled over for buzz driving, because buzz driving is drunk driving.
When some people struggle with their mortgage payments, they become frozen, petrified. Not knowing what to do, they do nothing. But the people who take action are far more likely to get the most positive outcome. Making home affordable is a free government program. Call now to talk one-on-one with a housing expert about the options that are right for you. Real help, real answers, right now.
Here at the GED Pep Talk Center, we have pep talkers standing by to get you motivated for your GED diploma. Text the name Terry to 69222 for a sympathetic pep talk.
You show people what you really are.
Or for a gentle pep talk, text the name Deborah.
You know you're going to make people very proud of you.
And if that's not enough, text the name Danny for an extreme pep talk.
Prove everyone wrong. Show them you're the boss.
Get your GED pep talk and find free GED classes. Text the name of the person you want a pep talk from to 69222.
Did you see the world differently? Did you celebrate the victory?
So today, I state clearly and with conviction America's commitment to seek the peace and security of a world without nuclear weapons.
Did you stand up against our greatest threat? Change the world.
Hey, there was supposed to be a football game last night. Somebody forgot to tell Denver. Good morning, everybody. Ho, ho, ho. What do you say? Monday, February 3rd. Here we go. It's the Bill Press Show. Good morning. Good morning. Hope you had a great weekend. Got a lot done. In addition to watching the big game last night. What was supposed to be a big game. Good to see you this morning, and we got lots to talk about today. Not just that football game, but the latest travails with Christie, what happened with Groundhog Day, and what's happening here in our nation's capital as the House and the Senate come back after a very short week last week. We'll wrap it all up, bring it all to you, and look forward to hearing from you about what it all means to you at 866-55-PRESS. That's our toll-free number. You can also send us your comments, of course, on Twitter at BP Show and on Facebook at facebook.com/BillPressShow. We are there with you whether you're listening or watching, listening on your local progressive talk radio station all around the land, including the great 760 AM in Denver, where people are, I'm sure, not too happy today. They were really geared up for a big win. And the Broncos just didn't deliver. So if you're there with us on your local progressive talk radio station or on Free Speech TV, if you got a satellite dish on DirecTV, or on the video stream, more and more watching on the video stream, which is very, very exciting because you can do that on your laptop, on your desktop, on your iPhone, anywhere on the planet. Just go to youtube.com/TawkrTV, TawkrTV. Good morning, good morning, good morning to all of you and to our team here, Peter Ogburn and Elisa Murphy. Hello, guys. Good morning.
Good morning.
Everything good?
Happy Monday.
Yep. Alicia Cruz here on the phones, and Cyprian Bolding with the video cams for the video stream and Free Speech TV.
Yes, sir.
Right? So before we get to the game, February 2nd didn't get as much attention this year as it usually does because it happened on a Sunday morning. Mm-hmm. But you can't fool the groundhog. He knew. Punxsutawney Phil knew it was February 2nd. He knew the cameras were all there. He knew we were all going to be watching. He crawled out of his burrow at 7:30. You slept in a little bit here.
A little bit.
A little bit. Yes. And what was the verdict? Did he see a shadow or not? Here's the official word from the scene.
My shadow I see. It's 6 more weeks of winter. It must be.
6 more weeks of rain and sub-zero temperatures, says, if you believe the groundhog, Punxsutawney Phil. Well, I don't know. It's raining in Washington today, not snowing.
Yeah.
We were supposed to get some snow. It's raining. So maybe the groundhog's all wet.
Yeah, maybe.
And it's only 45 outside. It's kind of mild.
It is. Yeah.
I mean,
and it was 50 yesterday.
Yeah.
Gorgeous weekend.
Yeah. Yesterday I walked outside in a short sleeve shirt. It was amazing.
I was wearing shorts.
Yeah, it's crazy.
So we believe this groundhog or not? No?
I mean, who knows?
I hope he's
They're
wrong.
saying we're still going to get some snow in the surrounding D.C. areas later today. It's certainly not going to be the amount that they'd originally said we might get.
I think it's another birth. I need another myth, like the virgin birth. Okay. All right. Hey, lots coming up here. We will have reporters in from the National Journal and from Think Progress. We'll also talk to a reporter from the New York Star Ledger about the latest woes of Christie. And on to the Super Bowl. But first,
this is the Full Court Press.
Just a couple of other stories making news, sad news out of New York. Oscar-winning actor Philip Seymour Hoffman died from an apparent drug overdose yesterday. He was found in Manhattan with a needle in his arm. A concerned friend found his body in his apartment and called the police yesterday late morning. Hoffman has spoken about his struggles with drugs over the years, and he said that he had been sober for over 20 years. Said he had a heroin problem, went to rehab last year. But, I mean, just a huge, huge loss for acting. It's, all of the movies he's been in, you could just rattle off all these tremendous movies that he's been in.
He is so great. He's one of my favorite actors. And
Yeah.
it was so shocking to hear that news yesterday. And you're right. We knew he had this problem. He's talked about his problem openly. The last film I think that I saw him in was The Master.
I didn't see that.
Oh my God, such a great film.
Yeah.
Really, where he plays Ron, the Scientology.
The version of L. Ron Hubbard. Yeah.
L. Ron Hubbard. Yeah. I'm telling you.
You know what was interesting about him? Even movies that weren't that great, like he was in a Mission Impossible movie, right? Which was not a great movie, but just him being in it made it so much more interesting.
Yeah.
So,
and and he wasn't like a real handsome dude. You know what I mean?
Right. Right. Exactly.
He's a real good character actor. He will be missed.
Yeah. Interesting story out of the Olympics, which starts this weekend.
Friday.
A select few athletes who are competing and winning medals on February 15th. That's the 1-year anniversary of the fall of the meteor in Russia. You remember the meteor that fell in Russia that we all had video of?
Oh, yeah.
So a select group of gold medal winners on that day will get gold medals with a piece of that meteor embedded onto the actual gold medal.
No kidding.
Oh, wow. That's cool.
It's like speed skating, short track, cross-country skiing relay, ski jump, slalom. Those events that are winning medals on the anniversary are going to get medals with the meteors actually right on the medal, which is kind of cool, I think.
Yeah. I just hope a meteor doesn't fall on Sochi during the games.
Yeah. And 3 robbers dressed in heavy winter coats knocked over an armored truck guard in Queens on Friday. They made off with $350,000 in cash. One of the crooks had a handgun, put it in the guard's face as he left HSBC Bank with the bank's deposits. They sprayed the guard with mace as they fled on foot with all that money. No word as to whether or not that mobster that was arrested for the crimes of 1970 might have something to do with it. But I have my theories.
You know, the idea that somebody could hold up an armored truck, armored car these days is
I know.
Yeah, with all
crazy.
With all the cameras and everything around these days. All right, there we go. Yes, indeed. I don't know what happened. What happened? You know, all the talk about these were 2 perfectly matched teams, and it was going to be one team that was great on offense, the other team great on defense, and it was going to be the game of the century, blah, 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 blah. It turned out to be not the Super Bowl, but the Super Blowout, as Seahawks ending up winning at 43-8. I think you sort of had the sense that things might not go well for the Broncos on the very, very first play after the opening kickoff. I mean, I feel badly for our good friends out in Denver, but this is the way it happened. Here we go. First play. Very first play. You got it, Elisa? All right.
The ball snapped over Peyton's head into the end zone. Moreno has it, and this is going to cost the Broncos 2 points. A penalty flag on the play. Manning was walking up to say something to the offensive line.
Illegal motion. Offense number 18, moving forward to the snap. Penalties decline. Safety.
Oh, my gosh.
Oh, my God. So right away on the first play, before they even get possession, the Seahawks pick up 2 points.
Yeah.
What happened? What happened?
It was clearly a miscommunication between Peyton Manning and his center because he clearly was not ready for the ball. In fact, the slow motion close-ups of Peyton Manning's face as the ball just went sailing past him of the crap.
I know.
Yeah.
It was terrifying to watch.
Even I mean, I hear the announcers say that even the most veteran, hardest players, right? They still get the willies, the nervous willies for a Super Bowl.
Absolutely.
And so in the first couple of plays, for both sides.
Yeah. You got the jitters.
Yeah.
And the other thing about sports is it's such a weird mental game, right? So like you'll see all the time in these big games, one big play just cracks it wide open, right?
Yeah.
So a Hail Mary pass that someone catches, or like John Elway, the helicopter spin where he was running for the end zone and got hit and sort of helicopter spin around. That was just like a momentum game changer. It takes you out of the game and you go, what just happened? And all you can think about is that play.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that the next time that Peyton Manning took the field, all he could think about was that play.
Yeah. Right. So, I mean, I tuned in right at the time, and very early, right? But already the Seahawks were up by 2, and I said, "What happened?" I couldn't, because I wasn't there.
The same thing.
And then they get a field goal, and then it's 5, and then they get another field goal, and then it's 8, and I'm thinking, okay, come on, let's get in the game here, Bronco. And they really never did. And then I thought, well, we'll go to the halftime. The Broncos are going to get the real pep talk, and they're going to come back. And
it was still manageable at halftime.
It was manageable
like
at halftime, but in the first 12 seconds, the Seahawks score again. Just to wrap it up, here's the final call on KOA out in Seattle.
12s, they're bringing the trophy home. Your Seahawks, Super Bowl 48 champions.
Crazy game.
43-8. I don't think anybody expected it to be such a blowout. Mm-hmm. And Seattle, what young team? I mean, this
very young team.
Yeah,
very. I mean, you don't ever see a second-year quarterback playing in the Super Bowl, much less dominating it the way Russell Wilson did. It was. There's an old saying, right? It's a saying as old as football. Offense wins games, defense wins championships.
Yeah, right.
They had the best defense in the league.
I know.
Broncos had the best offense in the league. They had a record-setting offensive year, but they just hit a wall when they hit the Seahawks. They just destroyed. They owned them.
But I mean, obviously the Seahawks dominated both offense and defense. They. Once they got first, it was they couldn't get into the touch. They couldn't score a touchdown. Right, it looked like it going to be a series. And then once they started scoring touchdowns, they hit it. They got their rhythm. Yeah. Now, of course, the bigger news of the game, maybe Renee Fleming singing the Star Spangled Banner. First time an opera singer's ever done that. Did a fabulous job. Chris Christie and the pre-bowl, pre-Super Bowl ceremonies was booed.
Mm-hmm.
No big surprise there. But the big news is always the commercials. Now, I want to be a team player here, but I have to tell you, as I didn't watch nonstop, right? From the opening whistle to the opening whatever. But I watched a lot of the game. I was not blown away by the commercials.
No,
like I have been in the past. I love.
I agree.
I love the Cheerios commercial. I like the Bruce Willis commercial. The Bob Dylan commercial was really different, I thought, and unexpected. They had a lot of stars in there. Ellen DeGeneres. Did you see Ellen?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was cute.
With the dancing. That was cute. That was pretty good. I thought. What was it? What is that thing called?
Squarespace had a big night.
Yeah.
I think that the Radio Shack, I think, had one of the better commercials where,
they cleaned out the store. That was cool.
Yeah, because it's Radio Shack. So everybody thinks about Radio Shack as a store of the '80s. So they had all these '80s icons come back and ransack the store, and then they said we're brand new. It's a great way to reinvent yourself and admit that hey, we might have gotten stuck in the past.
Which I think they have.
Oh, sure they have.
The 80s called. They want your store back.
Yeah, right. I think that they got the message out. I also really liked it. I forgot to mention this earlier because I forgot how much I liked it. Was the Volkswagen ad?
Oh, I did too.
With every time a Volkswagen crosses 100,000 miles,
yes,
a German engineer gets his wings.
Yes, I liked that. Yeah, I did. That was cool.
I did like that.
That was cool. Let's hear the Bob Dylan. Yeah.
So let Germany brew your beer. Let Switzerland make your watch. Let Asia assemble your phone. We will build your car.
We will build your car. For Chrysler. That was
Sure.
great.
That was really smart.
He's
That
earned
was
the
really
right to
good.
sell
Right.
out.
Yeah, I did like that. I did like that Volkswagen one a lot. It was it? I was just looking at Ellen DeGeneres. Was that Squarespace?
That was for Beats.
That was for
Beats, the headphones and the music streaming app. You know what else I like?
I'll tell you, Bud Light disappointed me. They
always have great commercials.
They're usually great.
Yeah,
fabulous.
Weird commercial.
Weird.
I like the Coke commercial where the kid runs back
see it.
for the touchdown. So this kind of scrawny kid is on a football team, and he gets the football and he runs for a touchdown. And all of his teammates as coaches say, when you get the ball, run. And he just takes off. He just keeps running, and runs through the neighborhood and runs through the yard and then up to the big stadium. I thought that was kind of cool.
I'll tell you the one that lost me, the TurboTax. Did you see that one?
Yeah.
With the prom?
Yeah.
Kind of came out of left field there.
What was that all about? I mean,
it was weird.
A kid at a prom Please. 15 and the TurboTax is what's going to save his life.
Right.
Exactly.
Right.
No,
Also, since when does Maserati run Super Bowl ads?
Yeah, I've never seen that.
Maserati ads, and I was just thinking, yeah, okay.
The car looked pretty fierce,
though. Oh, now I've made up my mind on what car I'm going to buy. I'm going to get a Maserati.
And now we get to the most important one, Chobani.
Boom.
That was great.
That was good. I thought that was a good spot.
Yeah. Very good. I was we put that one together, so we like that one. Yeah,
it's our people. Our people.
All right, there you go. Hey, listen, this is what everybody's talking about this morning. We got a lot of politics to talk about later. President Obama and his interview with Bill O'Reilly. President Obama with Google the other day. Lots more stuff coming up. But right now, it is Super Bowl all the time. What do you think? The game and the commercials. 866-55-PRESS. Your favorite commercial, your least favorite. What happened to the Broncos? 866-55-PRESS. Let's talk about it here Monday morning on the Bill Press Show.
Seen on Free Speech TV and online on TawkrTV. This is the Bill Press Show.
A single ember that escapes from a wildfire can travel more than a mile. That single ember can ignite and destroy your home or even your community. You can't control where the ember will land, only what happens when it does. Get Fire Adapted now at fireadapted.org.
Columbine, Virginia Tech,
Tucson,
Aurora,
Fort Hood, Oak Creek,
Newtown.
Newtown,
Newtown.
Newtown.
How many more?
How many more? How many more colleges? How many more classrooms?
How many more movie theaters?
How many more houses of faith?
How many more shopping malls?
How many more street corners?
How many more?
How many more?
Enough.
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 Demand a plan.
Right now. As a mom.
As a dad. As a friend. As a husband.
As a wife.
As an American.
As an American.
As an American.
As a human being.
For the children of Sandy Hook.
Demand a plan. No more lists of names. It's not too soon.
It's too late.
Now is the time.
Before we all know someone who loved someone on that list.
No more lists.
No more.
Who they might have been. No more.
If we had just done something yesterday. It's time.
We can do better than this.
We can do better than this.
It's time.
It's time.
It's time for our leaders to act. Demand a plan. Right now.
Right now.
You! Demand it!
Enough.
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 None of us would want to be told we can't marry the person we love. As Americans, we believe in freedom. That's what I fought for as a Marine, and that's what we believe in as Republicans. Freedom means freedom for everyone. I didn't used to understand the importance of same-sex marriage, but after learning my brother was gay, I wanted the same rights for him. He was the best man at my wedding, and I want to be the best man at his. It's only fair that Calvin should have the freedom to marry the person he loves, too.
It's time for marriage.
At Earth Justice, we defend the environment in the courtroom. Join our fight. When you take a seat, you take a stand. Earth Justice, because the Earth needs a good lawyer.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend.
My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. But it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello, that's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
On your radio, on TV, and online. This is the Bill Press Show.
Here we go at 26 minutes after the hour now, looking back at the big blowout last night and the Super Bowl commercials. Comments, your questions again and comments at 866-55-PRESS. Always welcome. Peter?
We are on Twitter at BP Show. At BP Show, a great way to join in the conversation here. Mama for Obama says her favorite ads were the Budweiser Salute to Heroes ad, which was very good. The Cheerios ad, which we talked about.
I was just going to mention the Cheerios. Yeah, we talked about it last week. We saw it ahead of time, but it was really great.
It's very
hard
very
to believe.
Good ad.
Hard to believe somebody would have a problem with that ad.
And the Coke ad. The Coke ad were her favorites.
You mentioned
I mentioned. Yeah, the kid running all the way to the big stadium. Jim Irwin answers your question. You ask what happened to the Denver Broncos. The Legion of Boom happened.
Oh yes, that's right.
There you go.
The LOB. And of course, the halftime, it was okay.
I thought it was really good.
Did you? Okay. Right.
I have to tell you, it completely lost me. I'm not a fan. I don't get this gentleman, this Bruno Mars character. He just kind of drives me nuts.
Quickly, Bill O'Reilly interviewing President Obama. No news really came out of that. President Obama did tell O'Reilly what he thought the biggest mistake was with the rollout of the Affordable Care Act. If we have that. Yep.
We put in a grandfather clause in the original law saying that, in fact, you were supposed to be able to keep it. It obviously didn't cover everybody that we needed to, and that's why we changed it so that we further grandfathered in folks.
Yeah. Okay. So one more time, he explains that. I didn't see anything new. Did I miss the news?
No, there was no real news in there. There was no real news in there.
Yeah. All right. Well, nice try, Bill O'Reilly. Other news coming up and more calls here on the Bill Press Show Monday morning.
This is my computer.
This is your computer. Let's go on the internet.
Let's go. Click it.
Yes.
Okay.
Eye cursor in between the R and the E. Pressing down, I want you to just push the area.
She's gonna love me all over again.
That's it. Jamaica, here you go.
Here we go.
Good job.
Thank you. Thank you. And I did it by myself. Feel smarter.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. But it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello, that's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
So, same time next week?
Well, of course. Put away a few bucks, feel like $1 million. For free tips to help you save, go to Feed the Pig.
All right. I know this isn't any fun to talk about, but we should. Okay. So who's going to do what?
I'll pack the dead batteries.
Great.
I'll only put what I don't need into a duffel bag.
Perfect. That's totally unhelpful.
No problem.
Meanwhile, I will try to comfort everyone by speaking in a calm voice.
And I'll try to get the generator going without any gas.
Oh, let's not forget the cell phones, which probably won't work.
Right.
And who is going to handle supplies?
I can forget to do a list for us.
Thanks, pal.
Well, I think we couldn't be any less prepared. I'm proud of you guys.
Talk to your kids about who to call, where to meet, what to pack. Visit ready.gov/kids for tips and information.
Hey, thanks for stopping by. You know, I followed your character since the first episode. I'm a big fan, big fan.
Thank you.
And listen, your storyline, it makes for incredible TV drama. Thing is, your drug use is very adult content. Too adult for the kids. So I'm gonna have to block you.
Oh, man.
Yeah. Well, have a good one.
You're a nice lady.
On your radio, on TV, and online. This is The Bill Press Show.
Okay, happy Monday morning, February 3rd. Moving right along here on the news of the day, The Bill Press Show. And poor Chris Christie. Well,
come on.
I'm not sure I feel that sorry for him.
Yeah, I don't feel that bad for him.
Actually, you got to say, Chris Christie was sort of sailing along. He thought, man, I held my news conference. I took every question I could. I put Bridgegate behind me, and now I'm moving on. He went to Florida, did a fundraiser for Rick Scott. He came down here, met with the Republican governors. He's got other travels around the country. He's moving on to head of the Republican Governors Association and candidate for 2016, sworn into office, did his State of the State. And then, oops, the old boomerang hit him on Friday when the New York Times published a letter written by the attorney for a David Wildstein. Remember, Wildstein was one of the man who refused to testify, who took the fifth in front of the New Jersey legislature. He was an employee of the Port Authority. He was hired by Bill de Blasio, whom Christie appointed as head of the Port Authority, the New Jersey side of things. And everybody confirms that Wildstein was hired with Christie's blessing. So this was sort of one of his guys on there. He came out, and his attorney, the attorney for Wildstein, came out and said, we have evidence, and we will present evidence to protect my client. We have evidence that Governor Christie was lying when he said he didn't know anything about the lane closures until after they had already happened, until after the 4 days of closures had happened. You may recall at the time that I and a lot of other people talking about Chris Christie's news conference said he did a phenomenal job if he were telling the truth. But if it found out that he were lying, his political career was over. Now, we're not sure that Wildstein is telling the truth either yet, but this really is troubling news for Chris Christie. Now, note again, to be fair, Wildstein doesn't say that Chris Christie ordered the lane closures. He doesn't say he knew about them before they happened, but he does say he knew about them while they were taking place and did nothing. So Chris Christie has suddenly changed his tune from, I knew nothing about this. I'm very sorry. I am chagrined. I've been blindsided. I am shocked. I am saddened. To now he's on the attack against David Wildstein. Right.
That attack that he sent out was a fascinating read.
He says that Wildstein, suppose everybody said they were high school friends. Now Christie said, nah, we hardly knew each other in high school. We were not high school friends. Not only that, he said that Wildstein had sued over a school board election when he was 16. He had been publicly accused by his high school social studies teacher of deceptive behavior, that he had a controversial tenure as mayor of Livingston, New Jersey, that he had once been an anonymous blogger, and he had a strange habit of registering web addresses for other people's names without telling them. They pulled all of this stuff out of God knows where. He basically tried to destroy Wildstein's character, and now while Wildstein is saying the governor is lying, it is getting ugly.
This is what I think is fascinating. Like, this is lose-lose for Chris Christie, right? Because
I think so.
Let's say Wildstein is right and he's got everything that he needs to prove that Chris Christie was absolutely lying, right? But as it stands right now, you've got Chris Christie out there going as far back as high school
and trying to destroy the guy.
To his someone he hired, someone that worked for him in his administration.
Yeah.
So this guy's a total scumbag.
Technically, he worked for the Port Authority. He did not, but Bill de Blasio hired him, but everybody says de Blasio hired him with Christie's approval.
Right.
So he's a Christie guy. He was known as a Christie guy. And he's the guy who resigned several months ago. And again, Christie says he never talked to him about why he resigned a couple of months ago. But after the lane closures, right? He was there and he was the guy that Bridget Ann Kelly, Chris Christie's former deputy chief of staff, wrote the email to that said it's time for some traffic problems for Fort Lee or whatever whatever the email was. Yeah. And Wildstein emails back, got it, or gotcha, or you bet. I mean, whatever. So they're the two that cooked this up. He was one of the two. He could be really, really bad news for Chris Christie, and so could she, and we haven't heard from her yet. So one of the two is already dropping the bomb saying, I've got the evidence that will hang you, Chris Christie. No, this is, as you say, Peter, a lose-lose. Even, I thought this was strange, even Rudy Giuliani, who has been the chief defender of Chris Christie, maybe with a slip of the tongue over the weekend, said he now thinks there's a 50-50 chance that Chris Christie was lying. Oof. A 50-50 chance that Christie knew about the bridge closures before, the lane closures, before they happened. I mean, if there's a 50-50 chance, to me, 50-50 chance, he's toast.
If your political peer says that you have a 50-50 chance, you're in real trouble.
You're chief defender.
Right.
You're attorney.
Right.
The guy.
You're in real trouble.
The guy. All right. So the question has come up, should he have to step down, or should he, for his own good, step down as head of the Republican Governors Association? Paul Ryan was asked about that yesterday on This Week, I believe it was. Yeah, on This Week. And he said, no, it's not proven guilty yet.
I don't think he should step down because nothing has been proven, and you always give a person the benefit of the doubt in those kinds of situations, in my judgment.
I think that's a good point. We do not, again, the letter is a threatening letter. Letter is a troubling letter. He says we have evidence that Chris Christie knew about the lane closures while they were taking place. His so-called traffic study was underway, but he didn't say what the evidence is. So there's still questions about Mr. Wildstein's statement, and you got to have to remember that to be fair. Meanwhile, the Democrats in the New Jersey legislature, they are still conducting their investigation. They acknowledge that they still do not have the smoking gun, if you will, that Christie knew about the lane closures ahead of time or ordered them. But one state senator yesterday, Senator Raymond Lesniak, says if all this is true, the guy's really in hot water.
This is a very, very serious offense, something that may result in articles of impeachment if these allegations are proven true.
And by the way, just on the self-correction here, I've got the mayor of New York confused with the head of the Port Authority. Bill Baroni was the head.
Yeah.
Bill Baroni
Yeah.
was the guy that, not Bill de Blasio, Bill Baroni is the guy that Chris Christie had appointed head of the Port Authority. He's the guy that hired Wildstein with Christie's approval. So I got to say, to use Rand Paul's now famous expression, when he said about Chris Christie, I just think that's water under the bridge, which is a nice way of sticking it to Chris Christie. Well, all of the scandal is not water under the bridge for Chris Christie. It is. It's still around. It is coming. It is going to haunt him until they hold these hearings. They've subpoenaed Wildstein and they've subpoenaed Bridget Ann Kelly, and they're all going to have to testify at some point, and it's all going to come out. And then, in the meantime, I think Chris Christie better forget about 2016 and take care of the problems at home. Monday morning, just getting started here on the Bill Press Show. When we come back, we'll be talking to, as we do every Monday morning, the folks over at the National Journal and Hotline about the news of the day. So stay with us, and don't forget to hit the phones at 866-55-PRESS.
Seen on Free Speech TV and online on TawkrTV. This is the Bill Press Show.
It is possible to read the history of this country as one long struggle to extend the liberties established in our Constitution to everyone in America. In other words, who, according to our laws and culture, gets to be considered a person? The law creates legal personhood, and movements create law and change culture. So, how have the courts passed laws to shape our culture? That history goes way back before Citizens United. 1819, Dartmouth College versus Woodward, Supreme Court case, turned a corporate charter from a government-granted charter to a contract. This ruling gave corporations standing within the Constitution. 1886, Santa Clara County versus Southern Pacific Railroad. Though the court did not rule on corporate personhood, the decision was subsequently cited as a precedent to hold that a private corporation is entitled to the same 14th Amendment rights of due process and equal protection as human beings. This makes it impossible for us to make laws that treat local businesses any differently than giant multinational corporations, even if their business practices are deemed to be harmful to workers, the environment and communities, or if they have a history of violating the law. Hale versus Henkel, 1906. The court granted corporations the Fourth Amendment search and seizure protection. Dodge versus Ford Motor Company, 1919. The Michigan Supreme Court says the business corporation is organized and carried on primarily for the profit of the stockholders. Stockholder primacy is established. The purpose of the corporation, according to the court, is no longer to serve the public good, as it had been. It is now to maximize profit for shareholders above all else. Pennsylvania Coal Company versus Mahon, 1922. Corporations get the Fifth Amendment takings clause, meaning if you pass a regulation that impacts a corporation's ability to make a profit, that is deemed a taking, and they can sue for the right to future profits lost. This creates a chilling effect, and local and state governments become much more hesitant to pass laws in the public interest for fear that corporations can claim loss of potential profits that cities and states will be on the hook to pay. Buckley versus Vallejo, 1976. The Supreme Court rules that spending money to influence elections is protected under the First Amendment, in effect saying that money is speech. Citizens United versus Federal Election Commission, 2010.
Today, the Supreme Court of Chief Justice John Roberts declared that because of the alchemy of its 19th century predecessors in deciding that corporations had all the rights of people, any restrictions on how these corporate beings spend their money on political advertising are unconstitutional.
The court's ruling threatens to undermine the integrity of elected institutions across the nation. It's a rejection of the common sense of the American people.
your radio, on TV, and online. This is The Bill Press Show.
Hey, it's 14 minutes before the top of the hour. Here we go with The Bill Press Show on a Monday morning, February 3rd. President Obama in town, the House and the Senate coming back in town to get down to work, one would hope. What's on the agenda? Let's find out. Stephen Shepard is Executive Director of the National Journal Hotline, joining us again on our newsline this morning. Hello, Stephen. Good to talk to you as always.
Morning, Bill. You too.
Good morning. So I am curious as to what's on the agenda, because they had a very short week last week. They came in basically for the State of the Union speech. Then President Obama went off on the road a couple of days. Republicans went off on their retreat. Democrats just went home. They come back. What's on their plate?
Well, it's another short week. Just in the other chamber this week, it'll be both parties' conferences in the Senate that will retreat later in the week, although they're staying closer to home. The House Republicans went to the Eastern Shore of Maryland. Senate Democrats will just be heading south about a mile down to Nationals Park, where they'll meet there.
No, really?
Yeah, Senate Republicans are instead they're going to the Library of Congress, which is in the greater Capitol Hill complex. So they're both staying hyper local. On the agenda,
when do they start? By the way,
those are Wednesday.
Wednesday.
In the meanwhile, the Senate will take up the Farm Bill, which passed the House last week. There'll be a procedural vote today, and then final passage Tuesday or Wednesday before the retreat, depending on how that clock works out. More immediately, though, on the agenda,
very important piece of legislation. Forgot about that one.
Yeah. More importantly on the agenda is the debt limit. Treasury Secretary Jack Lew will appear today before the Bipartisan Policy Center and call for Congress to extend the debt limit this week. That's unlikely to happen, and the Treasury has said that they can take extraordinary measures to help alleviate the impending debt limit, but those would probably run out around month's end. So Congress really only has a few weeks to get this done, and the President's Day holiday then complicates things further. So it's really... We're hoping to see some progress this week if the country is going to avoid another debt limit showdown.
There have been stories. The Republicans have said officially, and John Boehner, Paul Ryan, we don't want to shut the government down, but we're not just going to do this without getting something for it. The last article I saw, in fact, said we want something. We're just not sure what we want. Right?
Yeah, that's exactly right. Republicans have been very careful not to show their hand. There were a lot of questions about this at their retreat on the Eastern Shore of Maryland last week. They've been coy about what their demands will be in order to raise the debt limit beyond the $17 trillion it's currently set
at. Isn't it pretty? There have also been stories that Republicans recognize they just can't. They may just have to throw in the towel, I guess, at the end. If they're not going to shut down, they're pretty clear they're not going to shut down the government.
Well, I think they would risk giving back all the gains that they've made politically since the shutdown ended and the healthcare implementation took place. So that seems like a very risky strategy. Look, that doesn't mean that their first offer is going to be something to which Democrats will accede, but it also means that ultimately I think they'll find a way to get it done.
Now, two other issues I wanted to ask you about. One is we've been talking about for some time, and that is immigration. There seems to be a real split, Steve, in the inside the Republican Party. Some of the pragmatists, if you will, are saying we got to do something about immigration reform. Not the president's whole plan, but we got to do something, and there are things we can do. John Boehner's even hired this special person to help him do that, maybe put something together. But there are others, and I saw Ross Duhat in the New York Times yesterday saying, and I was on Morning Joe a week ago today, and Joe Scarborough said the same thing. No. Republicans should not do anything on immigration this year.
Well, look, there are a lot of Republicans who, after the 2012 election, called for the party to dispense with immigration reform. Get it done, move on to something else.
Right.
It was in the official RNC Growth and Opportunity Project, their 2012 autopsy, called specifically for the future of the Republican Party to improve their prospects, and especially in winning in 2016, pass immigration reform. Here's the thing, though, because the political mood has turned over the past 4 months or so, Republicans don't need to pass immigration reform to win in 2014. They're going to, right now, they probably have about a 50-50 chance of taking the Senate back, and they're going to keep the House. So a lot of Republicans say, why take the focus off of health care, which is sort of dominating how people feel about the two parties right now, and focus on something which isn't really comfortable ground for them and is going to be a bit of a rift on it within their base. Why do that when you're ahead?
So the short-term thinking is, let's get through 2014 and then worry about 2016, right?
Well, we'll see. Speaker Boehner seems committed to the idea of immigration reform, if not immediately on the calendar, then at some point this year, but perhaps that's better suited for a lame duck session. We'll just have to see what Republicans decide to do, but it seems like with the Senate having already passed their package, that House Republicans hold all the cards about where this is headed over the next really 11 months.
I think you're right. Again, Stephen Shepard, our guest, Executive Director of the National Journal Hotline at nationaljournal.com. And finally, Keystone Pipeline. It's been a couple of years since this issue has been in the State Department, where they've been preparing their environmental impact report. And the report came out Friday, which kind of gives, the way I read it, a green light to Keystone. Now, that's not the final decision, but what's the word?
That's not the final decision, but it definitely seems to be headed in that direction. Keystone's a really interesting issue because of a lot of the Democrats, particularly in the Senate, who are up in 2014, and in the seats that Republicans need to win back control of the Senate, these Democrats, Keystone is an important place for them where they break from the president, or at least they are urging the president to swiftly approve the project. Senators, think like Mary Landrieu in Louisiana, a big energy-producing state, will... ultimately the decision supposedly lies with the State Department, which is not considering really political implications, or so they say. So we'll just have to see how that plays out. But for now, Republicans and a lot of Democrats are urging the Obama administration to go along with it, while environmental groups and important fundraising allies, for example, for Democrats, are urging the administration to put the brakes on it.
And the president himself, I think it's fascinating because the president himself has said some very negative things about the pipeline, pointing out that once the construction is done, it'll be 50 jobs, 50, right? And with all of his talk about getting away from fossil fuels, it would almost seem impossible for him to approve a project like this. And then the State Department comes out and says it's not really going to add to carbon pollution. So,
yeah, it's definitely a difficult issue for the administration. The administration is boxed in, and I think that's one reason why this whole process has dragged on for as long as it has, and it continues to drag on even after this report.
Yeah, I don't think we're going to see a final decision by the president on that in 2014 for sure. Either way, leave it hanging, but we'll see. Hey, Stephen, great to catch up with you and see what's ahead, and we'll find out at the end of the week how well they've done. Thanks, Stephen, so much.
Thanks, Bill.
Great to talk to you as always. nationaljournal.com.
This is the Bill Press Show.
This is my computer.
This is your computer. Let's go on the internet.
Let's go. Click it.
Yes.
Okay.
I cursor in between the R and the E. Pressing done, I want you to just push the period.
She's gonna love me all over again.
That's it. Jamaica, here you go.
Here we go.
Good job.
Thank you. Thank you. And I did it by myself. Feel smarter.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. But it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello, that's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
All right. I know this isn't any fun to talk about, but we should. Okay. So who's going to do what?
I'll pack the dead batteries.
Great.
I'll only put what I don't need into a duffel bag.
Perfect. That's totally unhelpful.
No problem.
Meanwhile, I will try to comfort everyone by speaking in a calm voice.
And I'll try to get the generator going without any gas.
Oh, let's not forget the cell phones, which probably won't work.
Right.
And who is going to handle supplies?
I can forget to do a list for us.
Thanks, pal.
Well, I think we couldn't be any less prepared. I'm proud of you guys.
Talk to your kids about who to call, where to meet, what to pack. Visit ready.gov/kids for tips and information.
Hey, thanks for stopping by. You know, I followed your character since the first episode. I'm a big fan. Big fan. Thank you. And listen, your storyline, it makes for incredible TV drama. Thing is, your drug use is very adult content. Too adult for the kids. So I'm gonna have to block you.
Oh, man.
Yeah. Well, have a good one.
You're a nice lady.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Here we go, 3 minutes now before the top of the hour. What's happening, Peter?
In a couple months, I'm going to be going to New Orleans for Jazz Fest, by the way.
Oh, all right.
Which
Okay.
is always a highlight of my year. But good news for the people of New Orleans. Mitch Landrieu has been reelected as the mayor of New Orleans.
I think that is good news.
Yeah, he says
sure.
his big pitch for running for reelection was that the recovery from Hurricane Katrina is not completely finished, but we're heading in the right direction. We have to finish the job. He won with 64% of the vote, so a comfortable victory there for.
And I would say that gives him a good platform to run for governor of Louisiana, which certainly he is interested in. Meanwhile, the first priority is to re-elect his sister, Mary Landrieu, as the great senator from the state of Louisiana. So all of our friends down there, vote for both Landrieu.
This
Got it.
is the Bill Press Show.
You wouldn't let money just blow out of your house. So when your AC or heater is on, make sure the doors, windows, and fireplace flue are shut tight. If you're headed out, turn down the AC or lower the heat by 10 degrees. And always keep your water heater set at 120. A little bit of common sense goes a long way. Get more great tips at energysaver.gov.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. You know, but it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, you know, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello, that's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
Hey, good morning, friends. Great to see you this morning. Happy Monday. I hope you had a great weekend, and I've recovered already from last night's big game. It is Monday, February 3rd. Good to see you this morning. Yeah, well, that wasn't a Super Bowl. That was a super blowout. Whatever happened, it looked like it was just like one team didn't show up for the game, and the Seahawks walked away with a commanding 43-8 win over the Denver Broncos. Big embarrassment for Denver. But of course, the biggest news of the game, turns out it wasn't much of a game, when the big news of the game really is the fact that an opera star sang the Star Spangled Banner, Renee Fleming, for the very first time, and that Christie was booed in pre-game ceremonies. Of course, that booing at the game was not the worst of the news for Christie over the weekend. He might have thought that he had put Bridgegate behind him. No. He got some bad news on Friday when his man at the Port Authority, David Wildstein, turned around and said that Chris Christie was lying when he told reporters at his news conference that he didn't know anything about the lane closures until after they were over. Wildstein says that Chris Christie knew about them while they were taking place, but did nothing about them. And, of course, you want to know that the groundhog, Puxatawny Phil, came out of his burrow yesterday morning and saw his shadow, and that means, according to the legend at least, 6 more weeks of snow and sub-zero temperatures. Blame it on the groundhog. We'll take your comments at 866-55-PRESS by phone, on Twitter at BP Show, and on Facebook at facebook.com/Bill Press Show this Monday morning.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Don't look at me. Your hair's a bit frizzy today. Oh, you should pick that up. Oh, you're such a dork, loser. Here, let me help you with that. Oops.
Every day, kids witness bullying.
Oh, look. Your crush is looking at you. Poor you.
They want to help, but don't know how.
See, no one here's gonna help you, because no one
Teach your
likes
kids how to be more than a bystander. Visit stopbullying.gov.
If you drive buzzed, it could cost you around $10,000. You'll face major legal fees, major fines, and steep insurance penalties. You could lose everything. Nothing kills a buzz like getting pulled over for buzz driving, because buzz driving is drunk driving.
When some people struggle with their mortgage payments, they become frozen, petrified. Not knowing what to do, they do nothing. But the people who take action are far more likely to get the most positive outcome. Making home affordable is a free government program. Call now to talk one-on-one with a housing expert about the options that are right for you. Real help, real answers, right now.
Here at the GED Pep Talk Center, we have pep talkers standing by to get you motivated for your GED diploma. Text the name Terry to 69222 for a sympathetic pep talk.
You show people what you really are.
Or for a gentle pep talk, text the name Deborah.
You know you're going to make people very proud of you.
And if that's not enough, text the name Danny for an extreme pep talk.
Prove everyone wrong. Show them you're the boss.
Get your GED pep talk and find free GED classes. Text the name of the person you want a pep talk from to 69222.
Did you see the world differently? Did you celebrate the victory?
So today, I state clearly and with conviction America's commitment to seek the peace and security of a world without nuclear weapons.
Did you stand up against our greatest threat? Change the world.
Broadcasting around the nation, on your radio, on your TV, and online. This is the Bill Press Show.
6 more weeks of winter, if you can believe a groundhog. At any rate, that's what Phil Puxatawny told us over the weekend when he saw, yesterday morning, saw his shadow. And good morning, everybody, on a Monday, February 3rd. Great to see you today. We are starting out here at our nation's capital on Capitol Hill, in our studio just down the street from the United States Capitol building, booming out to you all across this great country of ours, coast to coast, on your local progressive talk radio station, and also on Free Speech TV and on our video stream. So find us on the radio, find us on your satellite dish, DirecTV for Free Speech TV, and if you prefer to watch on your iPad or your laptop or desktop or iPhone on the video stream, it's TawkrTV, youtube.com/TawkrTV. Good to see you this morning. Welcome to the program. Hope you enjoyed the super blowout last night, not the Super Bowl. And our whole team here this morning, Peter Ogburn, who had a little party last night and is kind of hungover from the Super Bowl.
Yeah. Well, it's like I said, when I become supreme leader of the planet, my first act will be move the Super Bowl to a Saturday.
I think you could run for president on that plan.
I'd vote for Ted Cruz. If Ted Cruz came out and said, I will move the Super Bowl to Saturday, that's all I need.
I don't think Ted Cruz knows what the Super Bowl is.
Right.
Peter Ogburn, Alicia Murphy here.
Good morning.
Alicia Cruz has got the phones covered. Cyprian Bolding, who's got us looking good on the video cam. And we welcome to the studio this first half of the hour. Tax season, believe it or not, starts today, right? The IRS start mailing out their stuff today, and we thought it would be a good day to check up with something new this year with all the talk about tax inequality for LGBT couples. This year, we can talk maybe about tax equality, right? Chris Massicotte is here to tell us all about that. Chris is a tax expert, a former, once you're an accountant, you're always an accountant, aren't you?
Unfortunately, once an accountant, always an accountant.
And he today is also chief operating officer for his firm called DS Political. Nice to see you, Chris.
Thank you for having me.
All right. By the way, if you want to know what really turns people on in this country, I mean, the big issues of the day, what are they most concerned about? Is it the Keystone Pipeline? Is it immigration reform? Is it the national debt? No, it is Justin Bieber. Throwing him out of the country. In fact, over 200,000 people have signed a petition to the White House to revoke his green card and deport him. Usually they deport people south, not north, but deport him north. Jay Carney was asked about this at our briefing on Friday, and Jay said, we'll give you an answer soon.
That process will occur, as is our commitment. There will be a response when the threshold is crossed. That response will come, I'm sure, relatively soon. I don't have one now.
So I think you remember it started, Peter, at 25,000, right? With these petitions.
I think that's where it started.
And then they upped it to like 100,000.
Right.
So what do you think they're going to do? Do you think they're going to throw him out? I don't think so.
I don't think they can.
There's no way.
Yeah.
There's no way.
No.
There's no way.
They'll just say, bad boy.
While we disapprove of Mr. Bieber and his actions, every citizen has a right
shouldn't be drag racing
to get high on drugs and drag race Lamborghinis in Miami.
I think you should take the advice of Miley Cyrus and party at home, like she told him.
Yeah. Seriously.
Oh, right.
There are people who go out and.
But I think it is funny that over 200,000 people feel exercised enough about this that they have to go out. Yeah. So that's just one of the big issues we'll be talking about this morning. A little bit later, we'll be talking to a reporter from the Star-Ledger up in Trenton, New Jersey, about the latest woes of Governor Christie. And we'll talk taxes and other issues with Chris Massicotte here. But first,
this is the Full Court Press.
Just a couple of other stories making news. Bill, do you know Cloverdale, California?
I do.
Cloverdale, California is home to the Bear Republic Brewing Company. They brew craft beer there in Cloverdale, and they think that they figured out a way to help out with the drought and set an example for breweries around the country. What they're doing...
I think they're in Mendocino County. I'm just trying to remember. They're north, but anyhow.
You would know.
I've been there. But.
They've installed something called the EcoVolt system. It is a system that was originally designed for the U.S. military, and the Huffington Post reports that will supply more than 10% of the facility's water needs with recycled water, and it produces enough biogas to get rid of about half of their electricity output.
Where's it coming from?
From the Russian River. They're right on the Russian River.
Yeah, okay. So it might be Sonoma County then, over there.
It could be, but that's how they're doing it.
Good for them.
Yeah. So the Super Bowl was yesterday,
well,
obviously.
There's a drought in California, so as long as there is a Russian river, it's a good idea.
Good point. So the Super Bowl was last night. Kickoff was around 6:30, but what you didn't see is the Puppy Bowl that was on the Animal Planet yesterday at 3 p.m. Michelle Obama, First Lady, invited a lot of the contestants to the White House last week, and Sonny and Bo were sort of featured on some of the covers, so... there you go.
What is the Puppy Bowl? Is it?
They take a bunch of puppies, they put them in a little fake arena, they let them run around and play with toys, and it's cute.
But it's not like football. No,
they don't put them in helmets. And
okay.
There was also the Kitten Bowl as well.
Oh,
which was equally as adorable.
Get out.
And awesome commentating. I have to say, some of the best lines I'd ever heard.
I miss all of
Very cute.
I didn't see any of that.
Do you watch any of this, Chris?
I did not see it.
I never even knew about it.
You missed out, I'm telling you.
Bowl, but I've never actually.
Next, I'll have a goldfish bowl.
And let's say hello to Tom Watson and Tricia Snyder. Not Tom Watson, the golfer. Tom Watson and Tricia Snyder. They got married over the weekend, and they got married at the Des Moines, Iowa Bacon Festival. I kid you not. Mr. Watson, the groom, says, I love her.
Destination wedding, right?
Yeah. I love her, speaking of his new bride, quote, she's second only to bacon. I mean, if you're talking true love.
We're at the Bacon Festival. Do you want to strip?
Yeah, the bride had a bouquet of what looked like roses, but they were just pieces of bacon that were curled up and cooked to look like roses. So they ate the bouquet.
I just hope they don't have to deal with the marriage tax penalty.
There you go. Right. There you go. Good segue.
Lord. All right. I predict problems for this marriage.
I'm not Casanova or anything, but if you tell a woman, I love you, but not as much as bacon, that's not a good start.
Not a good start. No. So, Chris, with tax season this year for a lot of Americans, blessedly, it is going to be a big change and a positive change, right?
It is. It's really exciting. The Edith Windsor case was really fought over money. She had... to pay estate taxes when her wife, Thea, died of $363,000. And so the entire DOMA argument and the entire case, in Windsor's case, was fought over money. And
that she should not have to pay that just simply because her marriage was not recognized by law.
By the federal government, right. She was married in Ontario, Canada in 2007. Thea died in 2009, and she was stuck with this giant tax bill. And what most Americans don't even think about when they, file their taxes, married filing jointly, is they get a very big tax break, especially if one of the spouses makes quite a bit of money and the other one doesn't make that much, because you're doubling the amount that you can claim on the rates, before it starts to go up. And they talk about the so-called marriage penalty. But for the vast majority of Americans, there is not a penalty. There's a huge benefit for filing married taxes. So this year, all LGBT married couples, regardless of what state they live in, if they are legally married, they will be able to file a federal return that says married filing jointly, and hopefully be able to recognize some benefits of being married in their tax situation.
Well, how many states do we have now? Is it 17 states that recognize... No,
yeah, it's 14, something. It changes daily.
I know. Yeah, right. I'm sorry to hit you with that, but it's maybe let's say 15. I think it is, and the District of Columbia,
right,
and other states are considering, right. So, but what about? So Maryland is one of those states. My cousin and her partner were married recently in Annapolis. But what if they, instead of living in Salisbury, where they live, what if they lived in
Virginia?
all right, right, not
Right
that
across
far
the
away.
way.
All right, in Virginia. But they got married in Maryland, but they're living in Virginia.
So
Can they still?
They can file their federal return as married filing jointly. And
No
then they have
matter
to-
what state they live in?
No matter what state they live in.
Even if
because-
that state does not recognize?
Correct.
Whoa.
Yeah, that's huge. But unfortunately, their tax issue gets complicated because Virginia will not allow them to file a joint tax return. So they get penalized because they essentially have to file 2 tax returns. I did some research yesterday. Unfortunately, the most popular version of tax software, TurboTax, does not allow you on their online version to file 2 different kinds of returns. So you can't file a married filing jointly and then file one for your state filing separately because the state figures that you guys are both strangers. So you have to use their downloadable software, which of course is more expensive. But they do acknowledge this issue in their software. They didn't have the ability, I suppose, to change it. I did enjoy their commercial yesterday on the Super Bowl. But yeah, that the most popular tax software doesn't cover that kind of issue.
So, I mean, it's not unusual to have to file 2 tax returns. I always have. I mean, because we live in California, we file a California return, and we file now we live here, we live a D.C. return and a federal return.
Right, but you and your wife
what you're
still...
saying, but we file jointly both. So this is not just filing 2 returns, it's filing 2 different kinds of tax returns.
Correct.
One as a married couple and the other as 2 people who happen to be living in the same house.
Right.
Yeah. Which is crazy.
Which is just crazy, and it really highlights the inequality of what we have in this limbo sort of stage in our history of this until all of the states are required to recognize it.
And how big a benefit are we talking about? Is this a big deal in terms of saving money for?
It is a big deal. Let's take, for example, a household that makes $100,000 a year. Your tax bill is going to be $11,898 if you don't have any deductions or anything like that. If you and your spouse make equal amounts of money, $50,000 each, your tax bill is not going to change. But marriage is always the idea of marriage in this country has been to encourage the family, to encourage people to have children, and to encourage a strong social bonding. So if you had somebody who was, say, staying at home, one of the spouses was staying at home caring for the children, and he or she didn't make any money, your federal tax savings is about $4,000 because now you're not paying at that higher rate for that, and it goes down as the things come equally. But that's really important for so many LGBT families who have children who are in that situation, and there are thousands of them that are in that exact situation where one spouse makes a lot of money and the other one is working at home or doing other things, and their income isn't quite as high. That's really important to note. And the other thing that's been really nice about what the IRS has done is they are allowing couples to go back to 2010 and amend their tax returns.
Whoa.
And so, I mean, any advice to any LGBT couple who's out there that's married, go back, do the math, and figure out if that's something you could be sitting on a few $1,000s just by amending your returns going back to 2010.
You can get a nice little refund from the federal government. Whoa.
They owe it to us.
Yeah. Damn right. 866-55-PRESS is the toll-free number. If you got a question for Chris Massicotte about this file, take advantage of it for sure. I guess one of the important things, Chris, and that's why you're here today, is getting the word out, right?
Yeah. It's shocking.
Because a lot of couples may not know the opportunity that is there, particularly this being able to retroactive.
Yeah, it's shocking. I mean, I couldn't find that nugget about
back to 2010.
2010.
That's 4 years of
the only place that I found that was in the IRS website. It's not being publicized. I'm lucky enough.
Why? Because they don't want to have to give away too much money. Or keep it a secret.
I was fortunate enough to know where to go to find that information, but so many people don't know that. I went to a couple the other day and said, what if I told you probably had about $5,000 that the government owed you because they've been married since 2007? They went and they did the math, and that's true. They were able to amend their returns going back to 2010.
All right. We just saved you $5,000 here. I hope you appreciate that. maybe more. Stay tuned to 866-55-PRESS. Chris Massicotte is here from DS Political, an expert on tax credits for same-sex couples. And I think a lot of same-sex couples are going to be dealing with something brand new this year, so you got to know the landscape. We got the map here for you at 866-55-PRESS.
Seen on Free Speech TV and online on TawkrTV. This is the Bill Press Show.
A single ember that escapes from a wildfire can travel more than a mile. That single ember can ignite and destroy your home or even your community. You can't control where the ember will land, only what happens when it does. Get Fire Adapted now at fireadapted.org.
Columbine, Virginia Tech,
Tucson,
Aurora,
Fort Hood, Oak Creek,
Newtown.
Newtown,
Newtown.
Newtown.
How many more?
How many more? How many more colleges? How many more classrooms?
How many more movie theaters?
How many more houses of faith?
How many more shopping malls?
How many more street corners?
How many more?
How many more?
Enough.
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 Demand a plan.
Right now. As a mom.
As a dad, as a friend, as a husband,
As a wife.
as an American.
As an American.
As an American.
As a human being.
For the children of Sandy Hook.
Demand a plan. No more lists of names. It's not too soon.
It's too late.
Now is the time.
Before we all know someone who loved someone on that list.
No more lists.
No more.
Who they might have been, no more.
If we had just done something yesterday. It's time.
We can do better than this.
We can do better than this.
It's time.
It's time.
It's time for our leaders to act.
Demand a plan. Right now.
Right now.
You! Demand it!
Enough.
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 None of us would want to be told we can't marry the person we love. As Americans, we believe in freedom. That's what I fought for as a Marine, and that's what we believe in as Republicans. Freedom means freedom for everyone. I didn't used to understand the importance of same-sex marriage, but after learning my brother was gay, I wanted the same rights for him. He was the best man at my wedding, and I want to be the best man at his. It's only fair that Calvin should have the freedom to marry the person he loves, too.
It's time for marriage.
At Earth Justice, we defend the environment in the courtroom. Join our fight. When you take a seat, you take a stand. Earth Justice, because the Earth needs a good lawyer.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. You know, but it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, you know, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello, that's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
This is the Bill Press Show.
25 minutes after the hour, Chris Massicotte is here in the studio with us on this Monday morning. We're talking taxes, particularly for same-sex couples. Peter?
I have a quick update.
I
have a quick update. Thanks to John Molnar for pointing this out. So we mentioned the puppy bowl and the kitten bowl, and you said next there's going to be a fish bowl?
There is already one.
Nat Geo yesterday had 4 hours of a fish tank, and they called it the fish bowl.
No way.
And they just had it up on the screen, and it was just fish swimming around in the tank, and they called it the fish bowl.
Did they have like the field, like a gridiron of some sort?
I don't know. I'm reading the story about it, but they just said they should have had a little football theme.
Yeah.
I'm sorry I missed it.
Yeah, but you had an idea as good as theirs was. So.
Chris, before we go to the calls here, Christopher, sorry, I've heard this phrase. So you were talking just before the break about the advantage of filing a joint return. But yes. I always hear this phrase, marriage penalty.
Yes, it's something that Republicans like to throw around all the time when we talk about the Bush tax cuts and everything. And our tax code is very antiquated, where they are encouraging one spouse to stay at home and to do that. But as you get higher into the tax brackets, when you're making over $400,000 a year, if both of your spouses are making $400,000 a year, you're not actually allowed to double the amount of income you can make before you get to that 39.6 level. It's only $450,000 for a couple married filing jointly, as opposed to a single person. So if you've got two CEOs of two companies working together, like Sheryl Sandberg and her husband, they're paying a huge penalty on their dual incomes.
Yeah, but most couples don't have to worry about that.
Well, that's the thing. Most 99% or however many don't have to worry about that, because that doesn't kick in until $250,000.
Let me just interrupt you, because Leslie has a quick point from Chicago. Hi, Leslie.
Hey, how you doing today?
All right, good. What's your point?
My question is this. My daughter been living with me for a year, and I normally claim her as a dependent. Now she has a job. She's been working from July to the present. And I normally claim her, but she have a child now, and she's going to claim her own taxes. Would I be able to file her?
Is your daughter under 18 and she's living with you?
My daughter, she just turned 18 November. She lives with me.
All right. Okay. That's Chris.
You probably will not be able to claim her as a dependent if she has a full-time job and she files her own return. And she's over 18.
Yeah, that's what happens. They get older. Christopher, thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you very much.
This is the Bill Press Show.
This is my computer.
This is your computer. Let's go on the internet.
Let's go. Click it.
Yes.
Okay.
I cursor in between the R and the E. Pressing down, I want you to just push the period.
She's gonna love me all over again.
That's it. Jamaica, here you go.
Here we go.
Good job.
Thank you. Thank you. And I did it by myself. Feel smarter.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. But it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello, that's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
So, same time next week?
Well, of course. Put away a few bucks, feel like $1 million. For free tips to help you save, go to Feed the Pig.
All right. I know this isn't any fun to talk about, but we should. Okay. So who's going to do what?
I'll pack the dead batteries.
Great.
I'll only put what I don't need into a duffel bag.
Perfect. That's totally unhelpful.
No problem.
Meanwhile, I will try to comfort everyone by speaking in a calm voice.
And I'll try to get the generator going without any gas.
Oh, let's not forget the cell phones, which probably won't work.
Right.
And who is going to handle supplies?
I can forget to do a list for us.
Thanks, pal.
Well, I think we couldn't be any less prepared. I'm proud of you guys.
Talk to your kids about who to call, where to meet, what to pack. Visit ready.gov/kids for tips and information.
Hey, thanks for stopping by. You know, I followed your character since the first episode. I'm a big fan. Big fan.
Thank you.
And listen, your storyline, it makes for incredible TV drama. Thing is, your drug use is very adult content. Too adult for the kids. So I'm gonna have to block you.
Oh, man.
Yeah. Well, have a good one.
You're a nice lady.
On your radio, on TV, and online. This is The Bill Press Show.
All right, 33 minutes after the hour on a Monday, February 3rd, the morning after the Super Blowout. Don't know what happened, but it wasn't the game most of us were expecting. Travis Waldron is head of the sports blog for Think Progress, a good friend of ours, and in studio this morning. Came here directly from his own Super Bowl party last night. Didn't sleep at all. Hey, Travis, how are you?
Good. How are you?
All right. What happened? Denver didn't get the word that there was a game yesterday?
Apparently not. Seattle came out and right away, right from the start with the safety, and then they interception return for a touchdown. It was, and by the time Denver realized there was a football game, it was over.
It's really, it's sad. I mean,
it's sad if you were a Denver fan.
Oh, well.
If you were a Seahawks fan, it was pretty damn exciting.
I guess so. But even if you were, I don't know, you wanted to see a good game.
Yeah, it had so much potential. You know, number one offense, number one defense, and nothing.
I mean, it was never a contest.
No.
I remember you used that phrase the last time you were at number one offense, number one defense.
I was excited. This is the matchup everybody'd been talking about all year, and, you know, it just never... It made the NFC Championship look like the actual Super Bowl.
Yeah, seriously.
Which was a great game.
I mean, the Broncos, rise and fall with Peyton Manning, and when he just didn't show up.
I don't know if it was him as much as he didn't have a lot of time. They were in his face, and no one was open.
Right.
They couldn't go downfield at all.
Right.
I mean, Seattle's secondary was just blanketing
incredible
Denver receivers, and I mean, you can't throw. They didn't throw at Richard Sherman all night.
Not at all.
No.
And the other guys held their own. And it's pretty amazing for Seattle secondary.
He threw 2 interceptions last night?
2, yeah. And
and I've got to say, for all of our good friends, and I love going out to Denver, and all of our good friends at AM 760, a great station, great friend. We're not piling on Denver. We're just talking about what happened. They must be as stunned and shell-shocked and saddened as we are, even more so, right? Because we're saddened that there wasn't a better game. They're saddened that they just got humiliated.
I couldn't imagine sitting there as a Denver fan and watching.
Oh, no.
We had some people come over last night, and they bring their kids over, and it's like a little party. But everybody there was rooting for the Seahawks except for one guy. And so when they got the ball and that literally the very first play from scrimmage, and it's a safety, he just looks and he just goes, "OS, here we go." That play just set the tone for their entire
The thing
game.
is for as bad as Denver was for the first quarter, they were only down what?
8
to nothing.
8 to nothing.
Yeah.
Right.
And so there was,
I thought this is going to turn around.
Even at halftime.
At halftime, I thought this is going to turn around. They're going to go in, they're going to get the whole pep talk and everything, and they're going to come out. It's going to be a different game. The jitters are gone. And then within 12 seconds, the Seahawks score again. And I thought, forget it.
Well, because I told I told the guys I was watching with, at 8 to nothing, Seattle has left the door open in a big way. I mean, it could have easily been 16 to nothing, and you're looking at something else to do for the rest of the night. And instead, 8 to nothing, it was still a one possession game, and Denver just never got it going. It was amazing.
Yeah, and in those early days, we got to play again. The very first, this must have been so disheartening. The very first play, right after the opening kickoff. Here's how that came.
The ball snapped over Peyton's head into the end zone. Moreno has it, and this is going to cost the Broncos 2 points. A penalty flag on the play. Manning was walking up to say something to the offensive line.
Illegal motion. Offense number 18 moving toward the snap. Penalties decline. Safety.
Oh my gosh.
Oh my god.
Just
So
it's got to be nerves.
Travis?
It's got to be nerves.
Yeah.
On the center's part, it's loud.
If you're
Super
Peyton
Bowl.
Manning, that is like, considering the family he comes from, that has got to be literally his worst nightmare.
Yeah.
I saw a thing last night, speaking of family. This season, I think the Manning brothers threw 7 interceptions to the Seahawks, and they were all in MetLife Stadium.
Ooh.
You have to check that. I don't know. It was being repeated last night.
His brother must have been there last night, right?
He was.
And his
He was
parents?
up in the box, and
Oh,
they
wow.
flashed to him at one point in the third quarter, and he looked. We were joking. We couldn't figure out, was he like trying to hide a smile because now he still has more Super Bowls than Peyton, or was he really sad?
Yeah.
What do you think this does to Peyton Manning, though, in terms of his legacy? Because Troy Aikman last
Is
night.
this his last season?
No.
Okay. They had talked about maybe it could be, but I don't think there's any way he goes away after this.
I don't think he goes out on this note. But, I mean, it now really is a legitimate question of whether or not he can close out the Super Bowl.
I don't think this is on Peyton Manning.
Right.
I think this was a total team failure. They were totally beaten. And people are going to blame Peyton Manning because that's the easy thing to do, and it, gets everybody riled up. But no one played well.
Nobody.
Other than Demaryius Thomas.
Right.
Now, here's one thing. Unless I missed it, I did not hear Omaha.
I had too many people.
I didn't hear
watching.
it. No, we had it up loud, and we kept listening for it. I didn't hear it.
I was at a pre-Super Bowl
Maybe
party
that's what it
yesterday,
was.
And maybe that's what it was.
Yeah.
And
so
the
after
talk
that-
was, Omaha, listen for Omaha tonight. And I was telling the last time you were in, I asked you, I remember, what was that? I didn't know what it was all about. And I didn't hear it. Now, maybe I just missed it, but it was impossible to miss in the playoff game.
Yeah. I wonder if, I don't know if they didn't have the
might
the
be
mic
mic'd
the
up
same
as well,
way but there were several people over where I was watching it, so we didn't have the volume
If
up
he was
too
calling
loud.
Omaha, he shouldn't have last night. Whatever it was working.
No. Hey, your comments on the game, 866-55-PRESS, whatever happened, 866-55-77-377. And your comments on I'm the Only Story are the commercials, right? The good. I was telling Peter earlier, I was doing some work at my computer with the game on, right? And I'd watch the game, and then the commercials come on, and I go back like normally you do. You just ignore the commercials. And then I suddenly said, wait a minute, no. Forget the game. I'm supposed to be watching the commercial. As disappointed as I was in the game, I was equally disappointed for the most part
I don't
in the
remember
commercials.
any of the commercials.
Really? They were that bad?
Well, I'm not really the biggest Super Bowl commercial person, but I
came away with 2.
I remember the Tebow ones.
Yeah,
because we
I
were all
remember those.
joking about them.
Yeah. I remember the 2. I remember the Radio Shack commercial with the
I like that. That
we're
was
not
good.
the store that we were in the 80s. And
Yeah.
so they brought back all these 80s icons. And I remember the Volkswagen
The
commercial.
Volkswagen,
with
where
the German engineers get
every
their
time a Volkswagen goes 100,000 miles, a Volkswagen engineer sprouts his wings. That was really good.
And the Bob Dylan Chrysler commercial, which was really weird.
The Bob,
very weird.
Very
I thought it was
weird.
well done.
But it was, but I thought it was powerful. Do you have the Bob Dylan? Yeah. So
let Germany brew your beer.
Yeah.
Let Switzerland make your watch. Let Asia assemble your phone. We will build your car.
It just sort of reminded me of, because you remember the Made by Detroit Eminem Chrysler ad,
Yeah,
which
and
was
the
like
Eastwood thing. It was very similar to the Eastwood thing.
Yeah.
You know, just take this icon and have them sell cars. He's Dylan, so he can sell out, I guess.
I like the Ellen DeGeneres one with the dancing bears. Whatever. I forget the
Beats. It was the Beats that she was... Not the vegetable Beats, the headphones and the music service.
Yeah,
Beats.
which was good.
Bill, do you have a pair of Beats?
And the Chobani. No. And the Chobani commercial. I love the Chobani commercial, too.
The bear?
The bear, yeah.
Yeah, I'd never heard of that yogurt.
What?
I was also very confused.
How many times have you done this show? I always have my Chobani.
Oh, wow.
Every morning.
I feel terrible.
The Chobani is his favorite member of the staff. If you had to tell him that he could do the show,
do they actually keep
without
it
all
on
his
the
producers
shelves?
with
Don't
Chobani?
you refrigerate yogurt?
I do. Yeah.
I was
that's true.
I was confused by that part.
Yeah,
The bear
weird.
just went to the shelf,
That was
and I was
odd.
like, "Don't they keep it?"
I didn't think about that, but that was odd.
My grocery keeps the yogurt in the refrigerator.
Yeah, maybe that store they just sell spoiled yogurt.
Commercial. By
I look for gritty
by the way,
realism.
we've been talking about how poorly Denver did. The Seahawks were phenomenal last night.
They were.
They really everything clicked. Defense, offense. Russell Wilson.
It's like nothing went wrong for them. They looked like they had worked their asses off and prepared for it. Yeah. And Malcolm Smith got MVP, which I thought was an interesting choice, linebacker. Yeah. I mean, you could.
Well, he had the interception and the fumble recovery.
Yeah. If it had been a closer game, I think you could say an offensive star like Percy Harvin kicked it wide open.
All right, let's go out to the West Coast.
Let's do it.
Here's from Spokane, Gary. Spokane, Washington. Hey, Gary, good morning.
Yeah. Good morning. I just commented, too. You guys weren't giving the Seahawks much credit.
All right. Sorry about that. Yeah, they did.
Safety did set the tone, but you guys forgot all about the safety that Tom Brady got 2 years ago that they lost to the Giants, wasn't it?
That's right.
Oh, yeah.
So, you guys need to kind of brush up a little bit before you get all you're talking about the game. But yeah, we loved it out here. The only time a route's fun is if it's your team. You're right about that.
Well, and listen, congratulations, Gary. It was a hell of a show. I was rooting for the Seahawks all the way.
Well, sure. Yeah. I was too. I'm a Marshawn Lynch fanboy. Yeah. I was excited.
Yeah, good.
I watch Seahawks games just to root for that one Marshawn Lynch run.
Yeah, yes,
like
exactly.
The one where he's got a clear path to the end zone and he slows down, because he wants to hit somebody.
That's right.
That's
yeah.
All right, more calls coming up and comments on the game or on your favorite commercials, which of course everybody talks about. 866-55. Do they give a prize, like a trophy to the best commercial?
Well, they should.
Well, we'll do it this morning.
Sure.
All right, we'll be right back here with Travis Waldron talking Super Blowout.
This is the Bill Press Show.
This is my computer.
This is your computer. Let's go on the internet.
Let's go. Click it.
Yes.
Okay.
I cursor in between the R and the E. Pressing down, I want you to just push the period.
She's gonna love me all over again.
That's it. Jamaica, here you go.
Here we go.
Good job.
Thank you. And I did it by myself. Feel smarter.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. But it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello, that's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
All right. I know this isn't any fun to talk about, but we should. Okay. So who's going to do what?
I'll pack the dead batteries.
Great.
I'll only put what I don't need into a duffel bag.
Perfect. That's totally unhelpful.
No problem.
Meanwhile, I will try to comfort everyone by speaking in a calm voice.
And I'll try to get the generator going without any gas.
Oh, let's not forget the cell phones, which probably won't work.
Right.
And who is going to handle supplies?
I can forget to do a list for us.
Thanks, pal.
Well, I think we couldn't be any less prepared. I'm proud of you guys.
Talk to your kids about who to call, where to meet, what to pack. Visit ready.gov/kids for tips and information.
Hey, thanks for stopping by. You know, I followed your character since the first episode. I'm a big fan. Big fan.
Thank you.
And listen, your storyline, it makes for incredible TV drama. Thing is, your drug use is very adult content. Too adult for the kids. So I'm gonna have to block you.
Oh, man.
Yeah. Well, have a good one.
You're a nice lady.
Seen on Free Speech TV and online on TawkrTV. This is the Bill Press Show.
Talking sports like everybody else on the morning after the Super Bowl. 12 minutes before the top of the hour, Travis Waldron is here in the studio with us from Think Progress Sports, thinkprogress.org. Top of the next hour, we're going to jump up to Trenton, New Jersey to find out the latest on Christie. Travis, I got to ask you quickly about the Olympics, but first we have a couple more calls on Super Bowl. Let's start with Robert in Plainfield, Illinois. Hello, Robert. Good morning.
Hey, good morning, Bill. Hey, no, I just wanted to say that I'm glad the Seahawks won. I'm a Chicago fan, Bears fan, always will be. But it just, highlights how good of a coach that Pete Carroll is, and I think that the media just had the Broncos winning the whole way, and I'm glad they won. And I salute them.
It is true. I mean, I know more about the names of the Broncos and the whole media thing. Attention seemed to be on the Broncos and not on the Seahawks. Like Russell Wilson, I couldn't remember his name this morning. Peyton Manning, everybody knows. So.
They're also the Seahawks.
They're
are
very
young.
They're tied for the youngest to ever win it. I think is what it said last night. Like the average age is, I think it was the 71 Dolphins are the only team as young as they are to have won the Super Bowl.
No kidding.
Those 71 Dolphins came back and went undefeated the next year. So
boy.
Not setting any standards for the Seahawks or anything.
And that fan base in Seattle is
it's
wild.
amazing.
It's wild, yeah.
But looking forward, they're only going to get better if Percy Harvin's healthy a full year, and Sidney Rice too. This team could have been even better than they were this year.
Seriously.
Mike is out in Buffalo Springs, New Mexico. Hello, Mike.
Good morning, Bill.
Yeah, what's up?
Oh, I just wanted to comment that Peyton Manning and the Broncos showed up, but they forgot the horse in Omaha.
Okay. All right.
That's all my comment.
They left the horse in Omaha.
Only made it halfway.
I know. And that's funny. And Pat in Beloit, Wisconsin. Hey, Pat, how are you?
Hey, Russell Wilson took the Wisconsin Badgers to the Big Ten Championship 3 years ago.
Oh,
and
all right.
He is a man of character. And there's a tale of two quarterbacks. Peyton Manning was a pedigreed quarterback who got everything he wanted, and Russell Wilson was 5'11" and told, you can't play in the NFL. And I think he is the character of that team.
How about that? Yeah,
that's true. Russell Wilson took a year off college to go play minor league baseball.
Yeah.
because they thought he wasn't going to have enough size to play in the NFL.
Is that right?
Yeah.
And his father died. I mean, he didn't have the rich boy, poor boy thing, but he certainly had all the obstacles in his way, and he stood up and met the challenge. And you remember how Peyton Manning got to Indianapolis. Papa negotiated so that he could go to a good team, so that he wouldn't have to be like Archie and play in a poor team that drafted him number one.
Wait, that was Eli. Okay. The way I remember it is Ryan Leaf is the one who didn't want to go to Indianapolis and engineered the San Diego pick, and so Peyton fell to number 2.
Yep. Let's just say Pat is
number 1, whichever.
Pat is a Russell Wilson fan.
Yeah.
Hey, good for Russell Wilson's great though.
Absolutely. One more, Stephen out in Aurora, Illinois. Hey, Stephen.
Yeah, last night, watching on Facebook on the internet, there was a clip from the internet that Peyton Manning said he's a Republican because he's against the social safety net.
That was John Elway.
No, it was Peyton Manning. It was directly Peyton Manning last night on the internet.
Elway said it yesterday morning. I was watching on Fox News Sunday.
Peyton's boss.
He said he was, They asked him why he was a Republican, and he said because he was against safety nets. And then he clarified and said, well, obviously we need some sort of safety net. But
really? Yeah, you know what? Just stay out of politics, dude. Yeah,
well, he said yesterday they had asked him to run for Senate or something like that in Colorado, John Elway. And he said, no, the former Broncos quarterback who's now the president of the team or whatever he is. And
got it, yeah. All right, now tell me, why should I be excited about Sochi?
There's a lot going on.
Opening game, Friday, right?
Right. There's a ton going on. Well, first off, the Jamaican bobsled team is back.
Yeah. They are back.
If you can't get excited about the Jamaican bobsled team. I am excited
about them, right.
But also, there's curling. Have you seen the Norwegian curling uniforms?
Yo.
Oh, yes.
Want one of those.
No, awesome.
The Norwegian curling team, thank you. I forgot about them. Well, how about American? I do not know the name of one American athlete who's going to the Olympics. Who's our star? Who are our stars? What are come on. This is the Olympics. We got to be excited about this.
We'll be fine. We won the silver medal in hockey last time around. I think we're gonna. Right. It'll be a fight to see if we can get back there.
Is this Ono speed skater?
I think so.
Is he still?
I think so. I've been all in Super Bowl mode, and this week is turn to
Crashing.
Olympics and figure everything out.
Lindsey Vonn isn't competing.
No, she decided not to go.
Not doing it.
Okay, right. But some of the kids are telling their parents to stay home. I mean, some of the athletes, and I'm just a little worried about this. But
we'll see.
And I saw a story this morning. The motels or the hotels for the media are not ready yet.
Yeah, there's a lot of construction that's not quite done, and.
Who made the decision to hold the games in Sochi?
The IOC. Gotta love them.
And Peter gave us a story last week about how they're making snow. This is
10 tons of snow out there.
Yeah.
They said it is going to stay cold enough in the mountains, though, to keep the snow, which is good.
All right.
Fingers crossed.
Okay. We'll talk post-Olympics just like we talk post-Super Bowl game with you. Travis, thanks so much for coming in.
Thank you.
All right. And when we come back in the next hour, we'll tell you what the president's up to when we come back in the next hour. Find out the latest on Christie. Stay tuned here on the Bill Press Show Monday morning.
This is the Bill Press Show.
In the early 20th century, the war to end all wars didn't end war at all. It stoked the fires of change. A traumatized world was ripe for change. The world was ready for modernism. Modernists wanted to forget history, or at least reinterpret it. More than just a style, modernism applied to virtually all forms of creative expression. Innovative artists like Picasso, Escher, Dali, they all started looking at their world differently. Other artists tried painting light itself. These were the Impressionists. Surrealists went a bit further. We had entered the age of the isms. Cubism, symbolism, futurism, constructivism. All these new modern ways of looking at the world blew people away. When it came to architecture, modernists were intrigued by emerging technology. Concrete, glass and steel featured heavily in their buildings. Modernists believed that they could design a better society. Ornamental indulgence was considered a frivolous waste of effort. They thought function should always dictate form. and that mankind's intelligence, creativity, and capability for radical thinking should be celebrated. Take the Russian inventor Georgy Krutikov. He suggested an idea for a city held aloft by electrical currents. This at a time when there was barely enough wattage to keep the lights on. Not everything they designed was a resounding success. But you could argue modernism was the single most influential movement of the 20th century. From house music to housewares, tables and chairs to graphic design, all have been created by the aesthetics and ideas of modernism.
Okay, getting ready to wrap up the first 2 hours here of the Bill Press Show into hour number 3. Hey, if you're watching on free speech, we know we're going to lose you. Sorry about that. But you can flip over to the video stream, and we encourage you to do so at youtube.com/TawkrTV. At the top of the next hour, we'll be talking with a reporter from the Star-Ledger up in New Jersey about the latest woes for Christie, and then talk with one of the veterans from Iraq about what's happening in Iraq and Afghanistan and how we're treating our veterans who are coming home from those two wars.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Hey, here we go. With the president's schedule today, pretty light schedule. He is meeting with the recipients of the 2013 Fermi Award in the Oval Office at 2 o'clock this afternoon. And then half an hour later, meeting with Senate Majority Leader Harry Reid. I'm sure talking about the strategy for getting an increase in the minimum wage and for extending those unemployment benefits. Other than that, and the daily briefing, nothing on the president's schedule. We have our press briefing with Jay Carney at 1 o'clock this afternoon. Star-Ledger's Stephen Strunsky joins us at the top of the next hour, and then we'll be talking with the Iraq and Afghanistan Veterans of America in hour number 3. So good,
this
two good reasons
is the
for
Bill
hanging around.
Press Show. Broadcasting around the nation, on your radio, on your TV, and online. This is the Bill Press Show.
It is Seahawks supreme, indeed, with a great big 43-8 win last night over the Denver Broncos. Good morning, everybody. The morning after the big game, well, not such a big game, Monday, February 3rd. Great to see you this morning. Hate to bring you the bad news, but Puxatawny Phil, the groundhog, saw his shadow yesterday, which, if you believe that crap, is supposed to mean 6 more weeks of winter, 6 more weeks of snow and sub-zero temperatures. We'll see whether the groundhog knows what he's talking about. Great to have you with us this Monday morning. Thanks for joining us. It is the Bill Press Show. We're coming to you live from our studio right here on Capitol Hill in Washington, D.C., bringing you all the news of the day. And, of course, reaching out to you. Want to know what you think about what's going on? Give us a call at 866-55-PRESS. Send us your comments on Twitter at BP Show. We're keeping our eye on that site all the time, as well as all of our friends on Facebook. Look forward to hearing from you at facebook.com/Bill Press Show. Here we go. Hail, hail, the gang's all here. Peter Ogburn, Elisa Murphy. Hello, guys.
Hey, hey, hey.
Hey, good morning.
Backed up by Alicia Cruz, waiting to take your calls, and Cyprian Bolding on the video stream, and lights and cameras are on. Cyprian's on the job if you want to check us out on the video stream. Wherever you happen to be on the planet, you've got internet, you've got us at youtube.com/TawkrTV, TAWKR TV. So, the best part of the Super Bowl are the commercials, right?
Usually, yes.
Usually. I thought last night the commercials were just so-so. None that really, I just thought, oh my God, that was so great, so great. The Cheerios commercial, because we'd seen it before, I really liked that. But it was a 30-second commercial, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think it didn't exactly knock your socks off.
It was okay. It was a sweet commercial, but it wasn't one that I walked away from going,
oh my God.
Right.
Right.
Which usually happens in the Super Bowl.
It usually does.
I don't think there was one that I walked away from and said, that was the
Remember
clear
the
winner.
Doritos commercials? They were right?
They usually have pretty crazy ones. Bud Light usually has pretty crazy ones.
Bud Light was
They came
disappointing.
up short
last
last
night. Doritos, was there a Doritos commercial?
There was actually, now that I think about it, there was a decent Doritos commercial, the time machine.
Oh, yeah, that was really cute.
The kid says he invented a time machine, and all you have to do is put your Doritos in.
Oh.
So it's hard. It's a visual. It's complicated to explain, but it was okay. It wasn't amazing. It was okay.
The VW spot was good.
Yeah.
And I love the Dylan spot, who was Bob Dylan, who was for Chrysler, basically making the point that we know how to make cars now, and we're back making great cars.
So let Germany brew your beer.
Germany brew your beer.
Let Switzerland make your watch.
Switzerland make your watch.
Let Asia assemble your phone.
Yeah, we can make your phone. Yeah, but
We will build your car.
We'll build your car. I like that.
It was good.
Yeah.
It was good. I will say that
It was a great message.
That idea of having iconic Americans.
Oh, my God.
Representing a great American product is something that they've done before. You know, they had the big
Clint Eastwood.
the big Clint Eastwood thing.
Yeah.
They had the Eminem commercial a couple years ago with a big choir and everything in Detroit.
Yeah. Ellen DeGeneres was there last night. Bruce Willis. There are other. Seinfeld came back.
Sure,
right?
yeah.
So, anyhow, we got a lot going on, but we're going to start off this hour. Checking in the latest with Christie. Bridgegate scandal looks like ain't over yet. But first,
this is the Full Court Press.
Bill, I know how seriously you take your job, but I don't know if you take it quite as seriously as BBC presenter Dr. Michael Mosley, who infected himself with a number of parasites in an effort to understand how they affect the human body for his TV show on the BBC. He swallowed tapeworms.
No, I'm not going to do that. No.
He stuck a leech on his arm.
Oh, come on. No.
He tried to infest himself with lice. All part of this new BBC documentary. So you could check that out on the BBC. But yeah, that's what he decided to do.
Is that right? Okay,
Yeah.
good.
There you go.
None of the above for me.
Yeah, I figured as much. Sad news report out of New York City. Oscar-winning actor Philip Seymour Hoffman died over the weekend from an apparent drug overdose. He was found in his apartment by a concerned friend. Bags of drugs were in the bathroom with him, along with a needle in his arm. Apparently, Hoffman had spoken about his addiction to heroin over the years.
Yeah, this is so sad.
Looked like he had been
such
clean.
a great
but no.
actor.
Phenomenal actor.
I know.
And not a dashing, good-looking, fit actor. He
was no George Clooney. But I'm telling you, like in The Master, even the movie, it wasn't that great, but he was phenomenal.
Right. Yeah. Which is kind of the legacy he leaves of just making every movie he was in a little bit better. And Bill, I know you're going to love this story. Politico reporting Alex Burns has the scoop that Liz Cheney.
Oh no, is considering running for another office.
She is considering running for another office. She didn't specify where or when exactly, but she did leave the door wide open, so she's told a lot of her friends, political allies.
So much for all the phony excuse about why she dropped out of the Senate
Her
race.
stepping out of the spotlight is only a temporary condition.
So the only question is, will she do it back in Virginia, which is her home, or still try to pretend she's a citizen of Wyoming? All right. Thank you, Peter. Yes, 12 minutes after the hour now. Christie might have thought he had put this little Bridgegate scandal behind him. It doesn't look that way. Stephen Strunsky has been following this story. He is a managing editor of the New Jersey Star-Ledger, which has broken a lot of news on the Christie scandal. Hey, Stephen, good to have you with us this morning.
Thanks, Bill. And I appreciate the promotion, but I am a reporter at the Star-Ledger.
Okay.
Managing editor.
My notes say you're managing editor. Maybe you haven't checked your email this morning, Stephen.
Okay.
you might have gotten a promotion. All right. Well, thanks for joining us. So let me ask you first of all: is it Wildstein or Wildstein? How do you pronounce it?
Wildstein is how it's
Wildstein.
pronounced by everybody, including himself. Yeah.
Right. So his attorney now has come out saying that Christie may not have been telling the whole truth in his news conference. What exactly is the attorney claiming?
Well, the attorney, Alan Zegas, is saying that there is evidence to demonstrate that that Christie knew of the lane closures while they were actually occurring, and not simply after they were lifted.
Which is what Christie had alleged before, correct?
Yes, but after this January 31st letter became public that made that assertion, Christie's office jumped on that and said, hey, that doesn't say anything new. It's basically what we've been saying all along.
Is there, and what does Wildstein's attorney give the evidence that Christie knew?
No, he doesn't. No, he doesn't say what that evidence is. In fact, a fine point on that is that he doesn't even say that his client is in possession of that evidence, but rather evidence exists, was his wording.
Oh, well.
He's going to be pretty careful about his wording.
Now, I know Christie then turned around and really dumped on and tried to discredit Wildstein. What do we know about Wildstein, and what is his relationship to Christie?
Well, that seems to be one of the matters in dispute. The two went to Livingston High School together. David Wildstein was a graduate of the class of 79, Christie of the class of 80. The governor has asserted that they were passing acquaintances at best, while others suggest that their relationship was a little more friendly. Christie's baseball coach suggests that Wildstein was the statistician on the team. Others suggest that they knew each other out of their mutual political interests. Of course, then as now, Christie was very out front. He was president of his class from the sophomore, junior, and senior year, whereas Wildstein, although even his civics teachers noted his fascination with politics at the time, was not somebody who was out front, either as a class official or anything like that.
And how did Wildstein get his job at the Port Authority?
Well, technically, he was hired by Bill Baroni, the former deputy executive director, who had been appointed by Christie. But all hires at that level have to get the consent of the governor, basically. And the governor has acknowledged that Wildstein was hired with his consent.
And in the letter from Wildstein's attorney, does he say that Chris Christie, he doesn't, well, he doesn't say, right, that Chris Christie approved, knew about the closures ahead of time and approved them?
No, he doesn't say that Christie knew about them ahead of time or approved them. Only says that he was aware of them while they were in effect, which was the week of September 9th through 13th.
So is this a big deal then or not with this letter? It doesn't seem that there's anything in it.
Yeah, that's a good question. Certainly the media has jumped on it. That's why you and I are talking. But
right.
It seems to be a matter of interpretation as to just how significant it is.
Now, this letter hits, I guess, because they know that there's going to Wildstein took the fifth in the last hearing, right? But he's going to be called back in future hearings, I would imagine, correct?
That seems to be a reasonable assumption. The latest round of subpoenas by the Legislative Committee looking into this only called on him to produce additional documents.
I see.
He and 17 other individuals.
Right.
But typically the committee gets documents, reviews them, and then it calls people for testimony based on what they've seen from the documentation.
All right, so we know that those investigations are continuing. What about word that the feds were looking into possible federal violations?
Well, it's more than words. The U.S. Attorney's Office has acknowledged that they are conducting their own review, and in fact, a lawyer for the one of the two organizations that received subpoenas that we're aware of from the U.S. Attorney's Office confirmed, in fact, that they had received subpoenas for that federal probe. And that's Christie's gubernatorial campaign as well as the state GOP committee.
So that's still an active, at least preliminary investigation, correct?
Sure, but when, they start demanding documents, I guess they're fairly serious about what they're looking into.
All right. Now, the big question that I've had, Steve, and we're talking with Stephen Strunsky, reporter for the New Jersey Star-Ledger, the big question I've had is, when are we going to hear from Bridget Ann Kelly? I mean, She's the one that wrote the initial email to Wildstein. She's the one that Chris Christie fired without talking to her. What's her story?
Her story, and whether she tells it, her story is that she's a former deputy chief of staff to the governor, a loyal aide, I guess until she wasn't, if you believe the governor. And she is among all those individuals that were subpoenaed most recently. So before we hear her herself, that is if she is ever called to testify and does that, we'll get some documents that she's been asked to produce. As far as her speaking, she hasn't done any speaking, and I'm sure that's on the advice of her lawyer. Not a lot of the people involved in this whole thing have done much speaking. The governor, of course, has held a few press conferences, but so far as we know, he hasn't been issued any subpoenas.
So this thing is, people who think that this thing is that this is behind the governor are dead wrong, aren't they? I mean, this is going to drag on and on.
It doesn't look like this is behind the governor. Only on Friday we learned that another one of his aides, a subordinate to Bridget Kelly, her name's Christina Renna, she put in her resignation. A statement from her lawyer. She's one of the people who were subpoenaed recently as well. And her lawyer issued a statement saying that that she had planned to leave the agency all along.
Oh, I see.
Yes, now, timing certainly raises eyebrows.
Yeah, well, we'll wait for that other shoe to drop, too. I'm telling you, all the big tempest in Trenton, Steve Strunsky's been on top of it from the beginning, reporter for the New Jersey Star-Ledger. Thanks, Steve, for joining us this morning. Good to talk to you.
You too, Bill. By the way, those subpoenas I've been telling you about, those are all due today, although lawyers for some of the folks subpoenaed have asked for extension.
That's right. Interesting, the timing of Wildstein's letter that the subpoenas due today, and we'll see what comes down the pike. Thanks, Steve. Good to talk to you again. We'll be right back here on the Bill Press Show this Monday morning.
This is the Bill Press Show.
27 minutes after the hour, the Iraq and Afghanistan veterans of America doing a good job caring for and making sure that our veterans coming home from Iraq and Afghanistan get the proper attention they need from the government. They will join us in the next half hour here on this Monday morning. We just talked about Christie and the latest problems that have popped up here in the so-called Bridgegate scandal. Carl from Chicago with a comment. Hey, Carl, how are you?
How you doing? Happy Monday.
Happy Monday to you.
You know, I'm waiting for the other shoe to drop, because if you got a phone call from somebody and they said to you, isn't it time to have a jam up at the radio station, and you said, got it, wouldn't you? And somebody got the phone call, said, "Isn't there time to have a traffic jam?" Mm-hmm. And they said, "Got it."
It was an email, not a phone call, but the same thing. Go ahead.
Done. You know, there had to be a previous conversation, a previous plan, and it was a matter of when they were going to do that, when they were going to press the button to do that. And I'm waiting for somebody to step forward and get immunity or do something. But these people are so afraid because they're underlings, because they'll never work again in politics, and maybe that's what the bottom line is.
Well, I'm with you, Carl. We haven't seen that other shoe drop, but it seems to me there had to have been some conversation with the governor, given that operation.
This is the Bill Press Show. on your radio, on TV, and online. This is the Bill Press Show.
Hey, you got it. 33 minutes after the hour. Here we are. It is the Bill Press Show this good Monday morning. We are brought to you today by the Laborers International Union of North America, the good men and women of the Laborers Union under President Terry O. Sullivan, building a better America. And that's our website, LIUNA, L-I-U-N-A, LIUNAbuildsamerica.org. A lot of news, and the president talked about it. Winding down, we've ended the war in Iraq, winding down the war in Afghanistan. All combat troops home from Afghanistan by the end of this year. But the question is, what help are we providing, and what's the status for our brave men and women coming home from their service in Iraq and Afghanistan? No organization more on top of that than Iraq and Afghanistan Veterans of America. We've talked to them many times, and Nick McCormick, Legislative Associate for IAVA, joins us in studio this morning. Hey, Nick, good to see you.
Great, thanks for having me.
On that issue of care for our veterans from Iraq and Afghanistan, you have a new report out today which shows that we're kind of not doing so well, huh?
Correct. There's been, we're having our red tape report launch today at noon at our D.C. offices. And essentially what we're trying to say is, look, in the last year, the backlog has gone down by a little bit more than 30%, but there's still a ton of work left to be done.
These are men and women who are waiting for care? Or
Correct. So in 2009, when Secretary Shinseki took over the VA, he put out a deadline of 125 days. And if a claim for disability compensation was pending longer than that, that claim is considered backlogged. So about March of last year, there was a peak of about 900,000 claims, and more than 70% of those were backlogged. So it was just a real a mess for hundreds of thousands of veterans.
Is this because there are just not enough doctors and nurses available, or just it's called your red tape project?
Correct.
Or?
That's part of the problem. I think if I had to sort of paint it with a broad brush, it's very bureaucratic, and things today are a lot more complicated than they have been in the past. And the VA has been somewhat slow to react to those complicated claims. So there's a lot more medical issues that have to be adjudicated in order for the VA to make an appropriate assessment of what these veterans are entitled to.
Aren't there also the fact that because of, the advances we've made in medical treatment, there are more and more people surviving these serious war wounds as well?
Correct. So the medical care that men and women receive specifically on the battlefield increases their chances of surviving. But and so where we're concerned is later on down the line, these injuries are going to catch up with them, and they are entitled to some sort of disability compensation because of their current status as a veteran. And lo and behold, more and more men and women are surviving these injuries, and they're entitled to compensation.
Which adds to the
the numbers continue to grow
as
the number of claims come in. The VA can process so many, but the number that come in outpaces those that VA is able to complete.
So, what are you asking to deal with this problem? To speed things up? I mean, more money for the VA, or more docs, or more hospitals, or?
Well, it's a complicated issue, and we've asked for a lot of things. I would say specifically on the money issue, the VA budget has received the appropriate amount of funding in the eyes of a lot of people in the last few years. There are some staffing issues as a matter of getting the number of mental health professionals at various VA facilities. But there's also just sort of feedback between the veteran and VA personnel that we're trying to enhance and make sure that the customer service aspect of this whole operation is better for the veteran, because a lot of times they feel left out of the process and don't know what their status is, and they're just sort of left waiting, and they don't know where to go or who to turn to.
You mentioned mental health.
Correct.
Do we see? Do we recognize that as a real problem for a lot of these veterans? And is there mental health assistance available?
So for those of us that pay attention to these sorts of issues, we do, but there still is a stigma about it. Asking someone to say, hey, I need help, or I'm having some problems or some issues, they just don't know who to turn to or what to say, really. So part of this problem is breaking through the stigma. It's like, look, you've been deployed for a lot of these veterans, 2, 3, and 4 times Iraq and Afghanistan. There's going to be some issues that you're probably going to have. It's okay to reach out. But with the personnel,
it's a real problem, right?
It is. It's sort of the signature injury. PTSD and TBI are the signature injuries of the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan. And, the science on these is essentially still in the works. Obviously, bullet wounds have been around, for hundreds of years. But mental health issues, we're still learning a lot about them, and our ability to adapt to them, specifically the VA's ability to comprehend them and treat them accordingly, is still a work in progress. So it's just a matter of getting people in touch with the right mental health professionals.
Now, you are a veteran.
Correct.
You served in
Iraq.
In Iraq, right. How many deployments?
Just one. So,
well, I was going to ask you, at the State of the Union,
Correct.
we saw Corey Remsburg, Army Colonel there, with the First Lady alongside of her. And the President told his story.
Correct.
And he met him when he was a strapping, healthy young officer, and then he went off to Iraq on his 10th deployment. Correct. I mean, how common is that?
Depending upon your unit. When I showed up to Alaska in 2007, I had met men and women that had been in for roughly 5 years and already had 2 deployments underneath their belts. But again, members of the Special Operations community deploy all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And, the more times you're over there, there's, increased likelihood you're going to see some sort of injury or, combat. And I think that's unfortunately what happened in this gentleman's case is 10 deployments. He's been over there so frequently. I'm sure he's very experienced over there.
Yeah, but everybody was just stunned to hear 10th deployment, right?
We've been over in Afghanistan for more than a dozen years. We were in Iraq for 8.5. It's essentially the downfall of an all-volunteer force is that you have the same men and women re-enlisting and then deploying again and again. So you're going to meet men and women with 3, 4, and 5, and unfortunately in this guy's case, 10 deployments to their names.
And there are still casualties every week in Afghanistan.
Correct. We crossed
far from over.
Yeah, it's not over. I know it's not necessarily on the headlines per se, as it was in October of 2001 or Iraq was for a number of years. But men and women are still getting shot at, still getting blown up over there.
I just saw a headline this morning. The UN says more than 733 Iraqis killed in January alone.
Yeah, so that part of the, Iraq war has been in the news.
Iraq,
recently.
right.
Yeah.
This is Iraq, not Afghanistan.
Yeah. So, the Iraq war, although we don't have any boots on the ground as we did, from 2003 to 2011, the effects or the aftermath of our efforts over there are still in the news. And there's even been a debate in policy circles here in D.C. over the last couple months with Fallujah essentially falling to extremists again and kind of wondering, what happened and why, and, did we really get a good return on our investment and so forth. So it makes for a great conversation, but for, those of us that focus on policy, it's not over by any stretch of the imagination.
866-55-PRESS is our toll-free number. So many of you out there, because we hear from you all the time, have served in Iraq or Afghanistan, have family members who have. You're dealing with us all the time. It's a very, very important issue. Iraq and Afghanistan Veterans of American Legislative Associate Nick McCormick in studio with us. Glad to take your comments, your calls, your suggestions, your own experiences at 866-55-PRESS. I have been to, covering the White House, to several events where the President and the First Lady have talked about jobs. Mm-hmm. So coming back, there are those that we've been talking about who need help with a physical disability or a mental illness, or mental, one of those lingering effects of being in combat. And then there are lots of who are healthy but just need a job, right? To get back into society.
Right.
How is that going?
It's getting better. A couple of years ago, the unemployment rate for the post 9/11 vets was pretty high; it was in the double digits. But it has decreased a sizable amount the last couple of years. And I think what you're really seeing an effort from Congress and the White House.
Corporations, businesses reaching out because people come back with, they got a good set of skills.
Right. It's the kind of men and women that make this country work. They got a good head on their shoulders, and they know how to show up on time, and they know how to do what they're told. And obviously, hundreds of companies said, look, we want to hire veterans. We want these men and women to work for us. Just getting, a veteran from point A to point B being employment.
Yeah.
They need sort of a good nudge in the right direction from, groups like ourselves or even the White House, basically saying, look, here's the tools. We know you have the talent. Make it happen. And I think that's sort of starting to pick up some steam here in the last
Is there a real organized effort? a young man or woman comes back from Iraq or Afghanistan that they can plug into and get some assistance in finding a job?
Well, DOD and VA will do their best to make that transition as smooth as possible. The problem is when you go from active duty from Fort wherever. In my case, I was separating from Fort Wainwright, Alaska, and moving back to somewhere else. In my case, Indiana. You're kind of starting fresh, and you've been on your own in the military for 4, 5, 10, 15, 20 years, but you're sort of readjusting to how to be a civilian. And a lot of times it's not what you know, it's who you know. But if you're brand new to the area where you just moved, you don't know who to contact or how to translate your skills into how you make a good employee in the civilian world. So it just takes some time to sort of inserting yourself properly in the job market.
Let's say a quick hello to Janet, who's calling from out in Chicago on the great WCPT. Hello, Janet. Good morning.
Good morning, Nick. I'd like to ask you, would you favor a voucher system that would enable veterans to have care that's paid for by the VA with local professionals they're more easily accessible and faster?
In other words, you could take that voucher to your local hospital if you don't have a VA hospital nearby, right?
Right. Or like specifically physical therapists, psychiatrists, psychologists, audiologists, that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thanks, Janet. Nick, what do you think?
So she touched on
before.
a number of issues with VA healthcare, and one of their sort of problems is there's only so many VA medical facilities, and they've done a really good job in the last couple of years to sort of expand their outreach. And although the medical facilities they have, obviously in a lot of states, are such a long drive away for veterans, they do have local facilities, vet centers, and what's called CBOCs, community-based outpatient clinics, that try to give veterans the sort of primary and immediate care they would need.
Mm-hmm.
As far as the voucher system, or something like the chiropractic care, some of the other things she mentioned, there are a couple bills in Congress that would sort of expand what VA is capable of doing. But again, Congress can only do so much when they decide to put their minds to it, so that remains to be seen. But VA really is trying to expand its coverage and outreach to veterans.
Is anybody talking seriously about a voucher plan where, again, you could go to your local urgent care clinic or community clinic if you didn't have a VA hospital nearby?
It's been talked about a little, but it just really hasn't picked up much steam. VA's been trying to focus on their current priorities and enhance those that they do have in place right now.
And IAVA doesn't have a policy on that?
Well, essentially what we do with VA medical care is we try to enhance what they do have in place. Because anything that would, any sort of fundamental transformation within VA would take a long time to implement, so we don't want to sort of continually ask them to change how they do business before giving them the appropriate amount of time to fix what they do have in place.
Nick McCormick here from Iraq and Afghanistan Veterans of America. More calls and comments coming up at 866-55-PRESS. We'll be right back.
Seen on Free Speech TV and online on TawkrTV, this is the Bill Press Show. radio, on TV, and online. This is The Bill Press Show.
11 minutes before the top of the hour here on a Monday morning, February 3rd, morning after the super blowout last night. Sorry, Denver fans, your team didn't show up. 43-8, the final score. We're talking about a much more important and much more serious topic here at this time, which is our veterans, particularly veterans from Iraq and Afghanistan, getting the kind of care, the treatment that they need in a timely fashion. The Iraq and Afghanistan Veterans of America say no. They're issuing a red tape report today, which complements the progress that's been made, but still calls for speeding things up a lot faster. Nick McCormick is here from the legislative associate, as the legislative associate for IAVA. How are you kicking this off today with a news conference? We're
having what's called a roundtable at noon with various other representatives from other veterans organizations, just sort of a meeting of the minds and sort of getting their input on it. But by and large, everyone recognizes the problem that is the backlog. But how we get from where we are today to backlog zero is really like where we sort of make a lot of poignant points on the Hill and so forth.
The one I must salute, one organization that I've had just a little dealing with is Fisher House, and the great work that they do, providing a place for the men and women who come with their families seeking help at a Veterans Hospital. I don't know how many there are today. Peter, did you go with me when we went out there?
No, I didn't go out there. No, wasn't able
to. They're tremendous facilities and great service. I'm sure you work closely with them.
Yeah, we've done some work with them in the past. They're just phenomenal group. So they do so much for men and women in uniform, and just their families as well. It's their work is so commendable.
If you don't know what they're doing, just check it out. Fisher House, just Google it. But they provide housing. They've built beautiful homes or restored homes on next to veterans hospitals or right nearby. In Bethesda, they're right on the same grounds as a veterans hospital, and the patients, if they're not hospitalized, their families can. If they are hospitalized, their families can live there. They got all their meals there. They're beautiful facilities, accommodations, and they can stay there as long as it takes until their son or daughter is, or husband or wife or whatever is back and it's great service. Just wanted to give them a little shout out here. We got a lot more calls here, Nick. Shane out in Chicago. Hello, Shane. Good morning.
Hey, good morning, guys. How are you?
Great, thank you. What's your point?
Hey, so real quick, I had a comment and a question.
Go.
My first comment is I was in a community-based healthcare program when I was injured in Iraq in 2008, and I saw me getting better much quicker once I was based in the healthcare program that was in my own community. So I was a very fortunate person to be able to get that opportunity. But I did have one question for Nick that he's on the line. My question for you, Nick, is what are you guys doing something to challenge that negative stigma in the military about, seeking out help? I know that's some place where, I was challenged before, but I don't hear of anybody doing anything for that.
Yes, we are. So on the policy
side... Thanks,
side,
Shane. Thank you for your call, and we'll get your answer from Nick.
Sure. So here on the policy side, there's a few bills aimed at breaking that stigma. One of them is making sure that service members, within the first few weeks of their service, so essentially when they're in boot camp, know about what services are available to them and that it's okay to seek mental health treatment at any point during their military career, and it won't be held against them. So obviously I think, if I can sort of speak freely, the stigma associated with seeking mental health treatment is that service members feel that it's going to hurt their career down the line. And we're trying to say, no, that's not the case. It's okay to seek help. Your career will not be adversely affected in any way, shape, or form.
That's important. So you're even giving that message out in boot camp, right?
Correct.
Far ahead of where they might need it.
Correct. So, over time, as the wars have gone on and on, as more problems have sort of popped up, case in point, mental health issues, we've said, look, men and women are coming back with mental health problems. These are popping up, either during deployments or right after. So we should tell them from the get-go, it's okay to seek mental health treatment.
All right. Hey, Nick, we're out of time, but there are a lot more questions. I see a lot more calls, too. It goes so fast. But IAVA.org is where you can find out all about the great work that the organization is doing and more about this red tape report coming out at noon today, right?
Correct.
iava.org. Nick McCormick, good job. Thanks for coming in.
Terrific. Thanks so much for having me.
See you again, and I'll be back with a final parting shot.
This is the Bill Press Show. The Parting Shot with Bill Press. This is the Bill Press Show.
Oh, just a final quick word on Chris Christie, boy. He is still in hot water. This is maybe round 3 of Bridgegate, where over the weekend, David Wildstein, Christie's man at the Port Authority, says that Christie was lying when he says he didn't know about the lane closures on the George Washington Bridge until after the fact. Wildstein says he knew about them while they were taking place, but did nothing about them. Seems to me it's time for Chris Christie to forget about running the country and maybe running for president in 2016 and just focus on fixing his problems back home. Hey, have a good Monday, folks. We'll come back here and see us again tomorrow morning.
This
you bet.
is the Bill Press Show.